turns out we signed up to the hardest one of this format in the UK. We did not prepare for it at all. The night before, we had pretty much Pringles and non-alcoholic beer to drink. I then wasn't really aware of how to do it, so I initially just ran every single lap. I basically just ran and was trying to be the first of each time, and I thought, right, well, I'll just have a lot more time to recover. Turns out that is what idiots do. I don't know what was going on. I just thought, okay, I'll just keep going, and I just kept going. So I think I made it 12, 13 hours. It was basically started at 7 a.m. I think it was about 7 or 8 p.m. where I finally stopped, but I was in a really, really bad way.
Hey, what is up? Welcome to Last Stroke Counts, back recording in England, and today's guest is a former senior GB rower and World Under-23 medalist, Ertan Hazine. Señor Hazine, buenos dias. Welcome to the show.
Buenos dias, ¿cómo está? Thank you for having me. Thanks for coming. We've been talking about this a long time. We were going to have you on with the Dave Bell episode. Yeah, I don't think that would be good for my ability to pass a DBS check. Yeah, together. You were slightly worried about the school kids finding out about that conversation, so that one postponed. But no, I think in the meantime, since talking about that, we've kind of been messaging a bit back and forth. I had a few ideas and some interesting things to talk about. Another perspective on something that comes up a lot on the show, anyway. And also, having done a bit of research, and realised that you went to a few more competitions than I thought. You're definitely an accomplished, achieved rower, and I think there's a lot to be learned.
Let's list them off. Peterborough City Regatta.
Yeah, Peterborough City Regatta. I think that was actually about 2007. So we're going way back. That's actually, I think you said there was an under-23 medalist. That was actually with Tom 15 years ago, Belarus. And to this day, probably the most I've ever enjoyed rowing. That's scary. That was 15 years ago, isn't it? We'll get into that one. I'm still a teenager. But let's start where we always start. How did you find rowing in the first place? I literally have no clue. I just remember at one point, I was actually on Marlow FM, and I got last year, and we got asked the exact same question. And the best answer I could come up with was at some point I saw it maybe on TV, maybe it was some World Championships I was on TV, and I thought, oh, cool. And apparently I was quite an impulsive young teenager. Well, actually, I wouldn't have been a teenager at that point. I was probably about 11 or 12. Okay. So I just went down to my local rowing club in Maidenhead, gave it a go, and then just 22 years later, I've just never been quite able to prize myself away from it. It's one in sports. No one ever leaves. No one gets out. Yeah. You're about as whenever people, one of the most recent job interviews I went to, someone was talking to me about rowing and said, do you still row? And I said, oh, are you retired from rowing? And I said, the best analogy I could come up with is I'm about as retired from rowing as John Wick is retired. I was like, if someone says to me that they're retired from rowing, I'm like, which one are you on? Because I retired 3 times myself. Like, no one retires just once. No, they always get pulled back in.
Everyone needs to have a comeback story.
So grew up in Marlow. We're going to leave that one.
We're going to leave that one.
If you know Parks and Rec, we're going to leave that one alone. Yeah. Grew up in Marlow, so didn't row at school. Maidenhead. Oh, sorry, Maidenhead, yeah. Didn't row at school, but just went down to the rowing club. Yeah, went down to the local rowing club and then just gave it a crack, literally just gave it a crack a little bit. Within the first... Who was around, any names you would have known about? There was Tom Jost. Yeah. Tom Jost was my coach he was there for 1 year.
Legend.
And then who else was there? There was Phil Clapp was there around that time. I was there when he got his. I saw he actually did he break the 1K world record? Yeah. He's a big boy. Yeah. He was there around.
It's 119 average. Sorry.
Right. Yeah. I think at this point, I don't think I could even get it down to 119 anymore.
I mean, yeah. We can have a go later. We've got eggs out.
No, Suzer off the air. It was people like him. Jack Bowman was a few years younger than me. A few of those people. Yeah. And then just, it was just, it wasn't just, I didn't just get into it and then was just suddenly really, really good. I mean, when I first started doing my started taking it really seriously, I was like doing pretty well, like getting bronze at national schools, I think silver national schools, but I was never just one of those people who turns up into the sport and is just immediately heads and shoulders above it. I was always one of those people that was just constantly coming away from regattas being like, oh, whatever, should have done this, should have done that. And then it eventually did get to the point where I was good enough or considered good enough to go to trials. And then I think 2007, I went to Coop as a spare.
Were you at final trials in 07?
In 2007, yeah.
I went to go in the race off and I didn't get in. So I did a pairs matrix. Ollie Cook was in there as well.
Were you in the pair with Ollie Cook or?
We did the pairs matrix. The problem is they decided there were only, this is me, sounds like
no, I want to hear this. I had no idea you were a junior back then.
It's nearly 20 years old. Yeah, no, I was not very good at junior. Like my school was like, there was like 10 kids in my school. Like I had like I was literally like a stone heavier than anyone else in my crew. 2 stone heavier than the lightest guy in my crew. And I only weighed like 92 kilos at 6'7", so I looked like a rake. But no, so I did spring assessments that year. Then I got another invitational. I didn't have a pairs partner. It didn't go very well. So I didn't get an invite to final trials, but then they have the race off on the first day. So I went with a guy from my school, but he also didn't want to do junior trials or couldn't do it or hadn't been selected. So we did the race off with him. He then left, and then I had to jump into a pairs matrix, whereas everyone else did at least one race with the guy they'd been in a pair with, and I didn't. And I think it was also that year Latimer had gone on training camp instead of gone to trials or something. So they had 2 guys, like Jack Morrissey was in the race off, where obviously he ended up getting all the way. Oh,
he won the world Junior Worlds that year, didn't he?
Yeah. So anyway, a bunch of different things. So I got close, but not quite there. But you were there.
I think I did something relatively similar because I'd also done GB France in the pair that year. Funny enough, that year hadn't been
that trial at Nottingham for GB France was horrific. It was like the worst wind condition.
I remember throwing up during the race.
I feel like we nearly sank at the start line.
I think I might be getting the years confused. But yeah, I did GB France, but then my pairs partner, who I was doing it with, didn't, for whatever reason, he wasn't invited to final trials. So then I got put into a pair with Alex Torbica. Do you remember?
Yeah, big guy.
Do you remember? Yeah, big guy.
Also, so if we're talking about 2007, you're like a J16.
Yeah, I was J16 then.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Everyone else there is like 18, pretty much. Some 17-year-olds.
Yeah, there were some J16s, but yeah, I felt like I was just like, yeah, I was 15 at the time.
I remember turning on that year and seeing Matt Tatlock and asking how old he was. And he was like 15.
He was
what?
Yeah, he was a cave troll. He was.
Shout out Tatlock. We love you.
No, he was. Yeah, I always really liked Tatlock, and he always had a really. I always really liked his attitude to things. He was always very, very open. He always recognized the fact that he was just so much bigger than everyone else. And every time you speak to him, he'd always be like, "I'm not very happy. My technique's not very good. I need to work on that." While he was playing at the age of. He was like sub 6 probably at the age of 16, 17, with a big boy.
Yeah.
So I did a pair with Alex Torbica, who I then went on to row with at UL, and then got into there. And then final trials didn't go particularly well because I was this 15-year-old who just kind of crept in there somehow. And I remember at some point during that time, I lost the only seat race at least the only seat race I remember losing was against Will Satch by 10 seconds. It was an absolute pounding. And I remember thinking, okay, he's quite good. And, it would have been 5 years later, he ended up winning a bronze at the London Olympics. And then a few years after that, gets a gold.
Yeah, he's all right.
Yeah, he's done some stuff.
I've never heard of the guy. Maybe one day we'll be digging up. Oh, yeah. I'm hoping, yeah. I've spoken to him a couple of times. I know he's really busy at the moment. He's coaching at Eton now.
Yeah, he is.
Okay,
yeah,
I'll take the word for it.
So yeah, it's pretty busy, but like at some point, hopefully, we'll get a catch up with him. Okay, yeah. So how did that go? 07. You went to Coop.
So originally, I hadn't actually been thinking about this for a while. After I hadn't actually been invited to Coop straight away. I was originally put into the home counties out. Home countries out. We won that, which was it was fun. It was my first time actually in an 8, I think. Won that, but then someone I think had got ill or injured. Something had happened in the Coops, and they brought me in. So I was brought in to be the spare pair, being the spare pair with a guy called Pete Gillis or Gillies, I want to say, from KGS. So we did. Yeah,
this is going back a bit.
This is really going back like nearly 20 years. So then we did the spare pair. We weren't very good. We came last in the spare pairs race. I think our time was 7:28. I think is the time that sticks in my head. And then that was that. Next year, I just didn't have a particularly great year, and that was when, truth be told, I didn't actually get on particularly well with Tom Jost. We may have to edit some of this.
No, this happens. It's fine.
Yeah. At that point, like I just didn't have a great time. Just wasn't really enjoying the training. Plus, there were a few people who I was really good friends with who left Maidenhead Rowing Club. So that was when I decided, at the end of that year, I decided to move because it hadn't been a very successful year. I wanted to sweep, but then I got, I think I remember Josty wanted us to scull, and I just wasn't as good at it. I was just nowhere near as good at sculling as I was at sweep, so I ended up not getting anything that year. So then I remember 16-year-old me thought, you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to move club. So then I went to...
Sorry, just to correct. Yeah. Do you think it was like, obviously you said you kind of fell into the sport, clearly sort of enjoyed a lot of what it was. It's then kind of got a bit more serious, started doing GB trials and stuff. Was it things like that sort of made it more difficult? Do you think it was pressure you put on yourself?
It was really, it's a really insidious growth. It doesn't just happen. You don't just no one just turns up to rowing one day and thinks, right, that's it. I'm going to go to the Olympics. I'm going to commit to 2 sessions a day, unless we're on a training camp where it's going to be 3, sometimes 4 sessions a day. No one just does that.
This is my life now.
But then at some point I realized, like, at some point I stopped enjoying the sport and I just did it out of pure habit. It was just, you're in that routine. You just get up, you train, you come back, you train, or depending on what part of life you are, you're just training. You're just constantly training. And I don't think at any point I actually asked myself, do I enjoy this?
Yeah.
I don't think I did enjoy it. I think I just had that goal and I just really, really, really wanted to, I think, keep going for it.
The more you take something to the top, obviously the less fun it's going to be. The more you have to work harder if you want to be like the best at something. What would you say was, so taking it back then a little bit before maybe that kind of area, what was it about rowing originally that kept you coming back? Or you know, kept you turning up in a way that maybe other sports hadn't done in the past?
Because I was quite good at it.
Yeah.
At least. So obviously, we've got the Sinkovich brothers t-shirt there. Like, you've obviously had significantly more accomplished people on here than me. But in the grand scheme of things, like when you think how many people turn up to GB trials, how many people row, how many people turn up to GB trials, how many people make it through any rounds, like just to get to the point where you're actually in contention, you can't be that bad at rowing. So I think comparatively I was quite good at it, whereas I never got on well with rugby, I never got on well with football, none of our cricket, none of the sports I ever did at school grabbed me, whereas with this, it was, I think I learned to row in summertime. So you're out in the river with some people your own age, you're having fun, and then you just, at some point, like, something just clicked, and I thought, I want to be better than them. Even when I was going out in tub quads, when we first started rowing, learning to row, and I just thought, I'm better than this. I don't want to be in a quad. I want to be in a single, because I'd seen someone in a single scull. So I thought, I want to be there. I want to be that person. I want to go out in a single. So on pretty much day 2 of session 2, I said to the coach, can I go out in a single now? So there was just something that I think I might be being a bit harsh on myself, but I think I did actually really enjoy the sport, but then just immediately just thought, like, that's it. I want to see how far I can go with this.
Yeah.
So like the pressure of wanting to accomplish something kind of took the fun out of it, because then you were focused just on the end result that you were about to get, or where your training was leading to, rather than the actual act of being in the moment. And
it depends, because I think I said it to you guys when we were off air, the most I ever enjoyed rowing was, funny enough, the most successful year I ever had was when Tom and I were in the Cox Four together in Belarus. And it almost felt like there was no pressure on us, because we were, due to the way selection had happened, there was a lot of musical chairs going on. Some of us thought we were supposed to be in the 8. We felt like we were demoted. We then didn't have a Cox boat that we physically shell for us to row in for a while. And then, like I say, some people were a bit disappointed not to be in certain boats. And then I think we didn't even have a Cox for a while. So there was just all really, really topsy-turvy. And we only had, what did we have, Tom? Like a week before at Caversham, before we actually went out.
Yeah, basically, we worked out, wasn't it? There's something like 9 sessions or something. I don't even know, whatever it was. Yeah, it was not long. I mean, because it wasn't all about section. Andy got really ill. He got like tonsillitis or something, didn't he? Andy he was in a hospital for a couple of years. It was like one of those things. You're right though, but in a way, it almost just took all the pressure off.
was that the year you spoke to the Australians on the after party, and you asked them how long they'd been in the crew, and you were like 9 days, and they were like
no,
4 months.
It was a similar thing, but that was the year before in the 8 when we beat them. Yeah, and they'd been in that crew for like 4 months, and they were like, "How long have you guys been together?" And it's like, "Yeah, we finish seat racing, and then we get like 2 weeks."
I think it's all changed now. So when I was doing, when we were doing under 23s, you pretty much just do your whole thing. And then you go to Henley. Then after Henley, there's a mad scramble to do last minute bit of seat racing. And then you just get straight into your boat. So at that point, I think because for whatever reason, I think the under 23s in Belarus were a little bit earlier as well. So we didn't have a huge amount of time. Yeah. So we just jumped in. We didn't have any pressure on us. And also from my perspective as well, I'd done Junior Worlds. So 2009, I had done Junior Worlds, and I felt really, really hard done by with selection. Like at that point, I had come second in, I think, the April trials as a junior, came second in the pair behind Stan Laludis' pair. He was, obviously absolutely phenomenal. And then I got made to swap sides, and then...
Was that with Alex Torbica?
Alex. No. So Alex was a 1-year junior, so he wasn't eligible. So I was actually rowing in a pair with a guy called Charlie Rendell, who was,
Charlie.
Charlie.
Yeah, he went to Durham. We were at the under.
Good lad. Yeah, really good lad. But he was an absolutely phenomenal rower. He was, so at that time when we were juniors, I was putting 6:15. He was putting a 6:38. And so the coaches, the selectors, they didn't seem to really take him seriously. So even though our pair went ridiculous, like it was such a good pair to row, and he made it so easy for me to row. And obviously we weren't very heavy, so we were able to we were just weirdly efficient and just went really quite quickly, even though we'd never really trained together because he was up at Pangbourne. So we did really well. Then I got moved to Bowside for his final trials. Did a pair with Stuart Innes. Well, shout out to Stuart, who then
he's all right as well.
Yeah, he's gone off to do some stuff.
Has he done like FISU or something? I can't remember.
I think FISU. Didn't he get a bronze at FISU? I think that was his
road is correct. Yeah, I think he rode in Brazil once or something. I don't know. I can't remember.
Oh, right. And yes, I think I did the pair with him, and then I just got moved straight. And then, from my memory, I don't think I got seat raced at all, but then I got put straight into the Cox 4. So the order that year was the Cox's 4 with people like Stan and Andy, who then obviously won. Then there was the 8 with Tatlock, who got the silver. And then I was put in the Cox 4, funny enough, with Charlie, both of us on the same side, despite having been in the pair together. And then we came 5th. And it was, I enjoyed it, but seeing other people who got medals, when earlier on in the year, you're 17 and you're not mature enough to have a decent outlook on it. So I came away from that thinking, oh, this is not fair. This is not fair. Like this shouldn't have happened. I should have been there. And I'm not bitter about it or anything. But then the next year, that was when my aim was, okay, every single trial I went to, I could write a list of everyone who was better than me there. So literally every trial I thought, okay, well, if I can beat anyone here, that's going to be a step, that's going to be good. So I went into every single trial I did thinking I wasn't good enough and I was going to have to pull something out the bag. So then I got to final trials. Final wasn't really final. It wasn't called final trials, was it? Because final trials was in
2010 or
2010.
Spring assessment?
No. So it was final seat racing. So it happened.
Yeah, final seat racing. Because final trials is the thing that happened at Harzwinkel in Belgium, wasn't it?
Yeah, that would be like senior final. That'd be like, for seniors final trials in terms of like then selecting. Well, they would then go into seat racing to select crews for the senior world championships that year. Whereas obviously under 23s generally all training with their clubs, not so that you would train with your club to Henley, and then like you said, under 23s is like three weeks after that. So basically, you finish Henley, you have like a day or two off, and then you jump into seat racing at Caversham. And I remember, I don't know whether this is funny. I don't know whether I've sort of almost like made this a bigger deal than it was, but so this year, 2010, was when my back exploded in January.
That was before I got in the boat with Tom.
Yeah, and I was out from I went out of, and I couldn't row, I couldn't do anything. I couldn't even cross train or bike. I was in the pool for a long time. My back was really bad. From like January, I think I basically got back in a crew at Met, did a training camp in the 8, did Henley. It didn't go very well. I was sort of last man into this kind of mix of athletes, some good athletes in there. Robin Dow was in that crew. That was good. Shout out to him. RIP.
Rest in peace. Yeah.
So anyway, I'd had my sort of heart set on making under 23s again because I'd made it the year before and I'd got a medal. Obviously trying to right, let's do one better. So I've scraped myself into this under 23s, but I'm largely untested. The 8 I'd been in hadn't done very well. The year before I'd kind of been in Shep's favour. He definitely wanted me and Will Satch and Ray Poulter, a few of those Leander.
What's that like to be in Shep's favour?
Well, the reason why I would say I thought I was in his favour is that there was final selection in 2009. There was a few seat races that had or hadn't been done between, say, myself, Chris Abrahams, Joel, not different Joel from Cambridge. Anyway, I felt like potentially I was probably last in that 8 on stroke side. And I was we could do another seat race. If Shep didn't want me in that crew, I feel like maybe there was another seat race, but that seat race didn't happen. So I was like, okay, maybe he does want me in the crew. But anyway, so yeah, fast forward 2010. So I've just made it back. I know I'm going to have to prove myself. I went in, I lost the seat race to, can't remember his name.
We're talking 2010.
10, yeah. I lost the seat race to, he was rowing over in America.
Callum Wright.
Yeah, Callum Wright. I lost the seat race to Callum Wright. I did kind of beat Mike Evans indirectly, which is why I felt a bit annoyed, I should have been the 8. Because they also put out an 8, didn't they? They put out a testing 8
yeah.
I was in, and then the next day we came back and the whole order.
And then there was a third person who kicked off.
Yeah, well,
Is that story of Shep having a dream?
A little bit, yeah. I don't know. I think I don't know. He just came back in the next day and he'd sort of said that he'd gone away and had a think and he wanted to change the cruise. And for whatever reason, it was where it was. Not for mine to say. But yeah, of course, that kind of. So I lose. So anyway, I've lost this race to Callum Wright, and I'm thinking, fuck, I could, I'm really trying to line up, who, because you don't know who you're seat racing next year. Am I going to get swapped again? Am I going to swap? And the whole time, so we would kind of been left separate. There was FISU seat racing going on, and then there was under 23 seat race going on, two different routes. And I don't know I can't remember what anyone else was thinking, but I remember watching the FISU. I remember watching this kid, Ertan, who was on no one's radar because you hadn't done a lot of under 23 stuff that year, just winning and winning and winning and winning. I think you won 9 seat races or so. You basically just pulled yourself all the way up in, you were the only guy that pulled out of FISU. You come into the under 23 group. I'm shitting my pants thinking, because we're both on stroke.
Funny thing was I wasn't even FISU eligible. I wasn't even at uni.
Well, yeah, I was thinking, shit, this guy, I'm going to get seat race. Now I've been seat raced out of the 8. Now I'm going to get seat raced out of this 4 because Shep's going to make me seat race with Ertan, with this guy Ertan, who's come from nowhere. Luckily, he didn't make me seat race you, and I think it's probably the only reason I stayed in the crew. You're definitely a boat mover.
So then, so that was my perspective because I turned up there and then I got put into the bus and boys and I was okay. right, let's like, and it was just like relentless. It was just constantly swapping. And I was just like, oh, my hands are getting torn to shreds. I'm just getting exhausted and I'm just constantly being swapped in.
You were definitely like, everyone else had also picked up on the fact that you were like on a serious win streak.
And I remember I remember it was at one point they then put me stroking a boat with people like they finally put me in a boat with like Tarrant and Rossiter and Scott and all of those people. I thought, yeah, I finally made it. I'm finally going to get to seat race the big guys. And that was when the seat racing stopped. That was when they basically just said, okay, well, we know you're going to try your absolute hardest. We know you're just going to die. Well, you're our ballast. You're our consistency now for everyone else to do the seat racing. And then at that point, the ship was like, enough is enough. Like, okay, I think we get the point. Like, we're gonna rest you now. We're gonna take it easy on you now.
That reminds me of at spring assessments on the final day for seat racing. They named all the crews and they said, George Nash and Callum Wright, you won't be racing, and Tom Clark and Tom White, you won't be involved. And I remember instantly thinking, like, we're not being left out for the same reason. Yeah, similar situation.
And yeah, so that was out. And so then we ended up, like you said, the chef went away and had a dream. And I actually hadn't heard that story.
I don't know if that's whatever. There was some decisions got made and some crews got changed. And then it's not uncommon.
I think it's hilarious. I think there's no criticism going on. I think that's the hilarious story, Martin Shep Jr.
No, I don't actually think that I don't actually think that was said. I think he's come back and made some selection decisions. And then obviously as under 23s, we've all gone away and then made up some hilarious story about what actually happened. I doubt. We'll have to have him on and ask him, I guess. Just get Pete Shep on the show so I can just grill him about all my selection decisions.
I remember there was a particular person, we won't name drop them, who basically kicked off and got borderline violent. They kind of like throwing a table over and be like, yeah. I think Shep initially said, right, here's the selection, right, does anyone have any questions? And that person stands up, throws the chair down and goes, yeah, where's my seat race? And it just goes on from there. And then we ended up in the fourth. So there was a little bit of all right, let's get on with this. There was just, we were all a little bit pissed off and we just got on with it. And I actually just rode really well.
We haven't. It's tough. You know, you've got your best interests at heart. You want to be in the best crew you can possibly be in. At the same time, a selector, for the same reason we said, it's got 2 weeks to try and fit these athletes in these crews in the right combination in order to win as many medals as they can. Like, it's a hard job.
Now that I'm doing a bit of coaching the vets, some of the vets at Marlow Rowing Club, I'll be honest, like I see it from Shep's perspective. I see it from their perspective. You see some people who have a big erg and you just want them to do well in the seat racing. And as soon as they get beaten in the seat racing, part of you thinks, oh, well, maybe if you give them a bit more time in the crew, we can help. 15 years later, I kind of get it.
I always remember thinking like, sometimes not agreeing with the decision, but at the same time, always thinking, I'm glad it's not me. I'm having to make the decision because that is hard. Like, and also you've got the thing of like, another whole thing is like, well, whoever is or isn't good in a scratch 4 doesn't necessarily make a great 8 or a great pair or a great so then you've got to think about like different people in different positions and who can stroke and who it's tough. But yes, we got in the fourth
and it just went really well. I mean, I think a lot of that was down to Pat and Andy.
And you, I think. With me being the ergo hanging on in the middle, maybe. I don't know.
The funny thing though was like I was like, oh my God, Tom, you were on like a 605 then?
Yes.
We were based on all of our erg scores for 2K. We were all between like 605 and 609. And in a Cox 4. So that's ordinarily where you'd expect to put some of the donkeys. And years later, I met one of the guys in the Kiwi 4 that we rode into fourth place. So I actually I raced him again the next year. So we got bronze. The next year I ends up in the Cox 4 again. They then came fourth, whereas we came fifth. And I saw him walking down Putney High Street. This was before the pandemic. And anyway, like got to know him a little bit before he moved back to New Zealand the next year. He just happened to be living in Putney at that time. And so
was he really freaked out that you recognized him?
No, he recognized me.
Oh,
Yeah, he recognized me. But the funniest thing was, we were thinking like we didn't have big erg scores.
Yeah.
Their erg scores, ours paled in comparison to theirs. So theirs, like our best was 605. We were with a 605. Their slowest was 6, and their best was 549, I think.
In the
somewhere
Cox 4?
in the Cox 4, yeah.
Was that the top boat or?
They were just generally not a top boat, obviously a non-Olympic event.
Yeah, exactly. So what did the top guys have there?
What was it, 2010? What were the Kiwis doing for their top boat that year? I can't remember. I think that may have been their top boat.
I don't know, I was 12.
No, I also have like some of the best rowing I've ever done. Like that 2 weeks we had at Cap, even though it wasn't very long, Ben Lewis was doing a great job. Max was a great Cox. Like you said, we had some real boat movers and the weather was amazing. It was warm. It was flat. Some of those sessions,
the food wasn't good.
In the Riders Hotel.
Oh, I hate it. No, I mean the food in Belarus.
Oh yeah, we'll get to the competition.
That was awful.
That was insane. Yeah,
No, I've heard about that.
I was like going out getting pizza every day just because like they kept on giving us like, what was it? Like
ox tongue.
Yeah.
I think there's a photo somewhere with you with the whole tongue. It wasn't just like ox tongue like chopped up. It was an entire ox's tongue on each person's plate, just like served.
With like a grain of rice. And
then weird, so you'd have like ox tongue for dinner, but then breakfast, you'd like open the big like thing for breakfast expecting eggs, and it was just like bolognese, like pasta bolognese. You're like, I mean, it's not bad food, but it's kind of a weird breakfast, but I don't know.
And the beds, like the hotels, do you remember that? It wasn't even proper beds. It was just like a bale of hay with some tissue paper draped over it. It was very, very comfortable. And like every day, when you do your morning monitoring, you have to do a urine test to measure your hydration and then like heart rate and then perceived willingness to train. Every day I was just like going down. My perceived willingness to train was just going down because I was just getting more and more tired.
It was rough. It was really, really hot. There was no aircon anywhere. So like everyone's sort of windows. I remember I was like having a cold shower and then like getting into bed wet to try and like stay cool enough, long enough to fall asleep. It was brutally hot there.
Yeah. Big shout out to Belarus.
I think things have changed maybe a bit now.
I mean, I remember, no offense to them at the time or whatever, but like I remember someone else saying like, the coaches had come over the year before and like done a recce and this was like the best hotel.
I remember
being like, whoa.
Do you remember when we watched that guy getting mugged outside the hotel?
Mugged?
Yeah, do you not remember that?
No.
Some guys. We were sat in our hotel just watching a gang of people just beating this guy up, taking his jeans off him. Like they stole his jeans, and then
I don't remember this.
And we were there just looking at each other. I was like 18. I was 18 at the time. It's like a group of like teenagers and people in their young 20s, like early 20s, being like, "Should we help him? Like, what's going on?" And there were just like loads of people there. We could see phoning the police. And we were like, "Okay, I think they've got it. I think they've got a handle on this." And then after they took his jeans off, they then shared a glass of vodka with him, and he was just standing there, just in his underwear and his t-shirt, just like sharing a mug of vodka with him. It's like a sort of, there you go, no hard feelings. It's only business, mate. Before they walk off and just leave him there, standing in his underwear.
Now you mention it, I am remembering it a little bit. But it's not as bad as when we went to Prague the year before, and there was a man like living in his car outside the hotel. So obviously we found it quite fascinating watching. And there was like one morning, I'm pretty sure someone's in there with him. And then a scantily clad lady got out of the car and went off. And I think he's just paid for a night of fun in his car parked outside the hotel. It was mental.
Yeah, rowing for GB is glamorous, isn't it?
Always keeps you entertained. You got nothing else to do. All you do is train and then sit in your room doing nothing.
So boring. I don't think you even had Wi-Fi.
Probably not. No, I remember watching Coach Carter on someone's laptop in the hallway.
Oh, we did watch that, didn't we? And then we spend the rest of the day just like shouting, "Rich what?"
Yeah, Richmond.
Rich what?
So what was it? What was your like other thoughts on like that regatta, how it went, the racing, all that kind of stuff? Be interested.
I was just happy. Originally, I was happy to get selected, and I thought, okay, well, next year it can be all about performance. And then, so then we did our first race, and we just got like everyone just walked away from us. You had the Kiwis who just rode away from us. Who else do we have? Do we have the Italians?
No, we didn't have the Italians. We had the Australians, I think, as well, or someone. I don't know.
Whoever it was, like, because like whoever it was, I think it may, I think it may have been the Italians, because then the Kiwis were just running away from us. And I remember thinking in the first 500 meters, well, this doesn't look good. And somehow we just kept going. And then we ended up rowing. Are we able to check this? Because I'm actually really curious to see who it is. Jamie, pull that up. Because then we pipped the Kiwis just on the line, didn't we?
Yeah.
But then we I think we came second. So it wasn't.
First two through, we didn't have to go to the rep. So yeah, it was someone ahead of us, but we came second in our heat. And Pat Lepage was pretty famous for a slow start, but we had a very slow start, and then we had a great finish and just literally put them on the line.
I always loved the last 500. That was always my natural habitat.
I remember we put them on the line, and then Steve Gunn was the team manager that year, and he came up and gave us a bit of a bollocky.
He swore at us, didn't he?
Yeah, for like having such a late finish. And I was like, hang on, weren't you coaching the Sill brothers? And he was like, that's not the point. He had. I mean, obviously we could have gone faster because we did a bit in the final, but yeah.
And then
Okay, so I've got some information from Google. It says Italy won gold, silver got New Zealand, bronze was Germany, and then GB rowing team won. What? Also the bronze medals.
Wrong. Yeah, no, you're wrong.
we did not.
No, I know.
The Germans got silver.
I'm just talking about the state of AI
Yeah.
and how much you can actually trust it. So
Yeah, the Italians had a screamer day. There was also a crew rowing in a wooden boat.
Oh, the Ukrainian.
Yes. They rowed up there. You have never seen anything more mental than a very nice varnished wooden boat with world rowing stickers on.
And what was it? It was like duct tape and bits of cling film stapled on. It was just an absolute. Yeah, it wasn't a good boat.
We went and got a photo in front of it. Everyone got. They would have made the final if they were in the other boat semi-final. I think it was. No, yeah, obviously if they're in another boat, but like if they'd been in with their time, if they'd been in the other semi-final, I think they would have made the final.
So did you guys say Germans got silver?
Yeah.
In which case Italians won.
Yeah, Italians won. They had a huge crew that year. They did awesome. Germans rowed us down, which had happened to me the year before again, which was pretty gutting.
One of those guys ended up Hannes Ochuk. He ended up stroking the German 8 for a couple of Olympiads. Olympiads, yeah. Like it's like not long after, I say not long after, it was like a few years ago, I actually just got curious to actually look at people in that race. So I just wanted to see what people went on to do. So yeah, like there was one of the guys in the German has obviously got a couple of silver Olympic medals now. I think weirdly, some of the guys in the Ukrainian boat ended up doing some stuff for Russia. Being defected or
crazy
something.
I remember you definitely a statistician. Like that was the first year. Like I remember when we were on training camp when the crew list got released for like the entries. Within about like 12 minutes, Ertan knew like the 2K PBs, the best race they ever done, their names of their brothers and sisters. Like honestly, like I was like, where are you getting this from?
We didn't even have AI back then. So
just unlimited time when all you're allowed to do is just sit on your bed and do nothing.
I'm hoping not to offend you with this, but that's what I'd call a weaponized autism.
Probably. Like when you like.
Have you seen that GeoGuessr guy where someone shows a random photo from across the earth and he's like, that's that street there in the middle of that looks like southern Brazil to me, and then he just gets it exactly right, and then like every comment is just like, yeah, weaponized autism.
I think it's a double-edged sword, isn't it? Because you could do a lot of research and work out that you're better. You know, you could make yourself feel better from what you've done, or you could like really like fuck yourself.
That's the thing. Yeah.
Oh shit! Like I said, like if we'd known the New Zealand erg scores, that definitely would have played in your head.
It's funny because at that time, when I was a teenager, I was definitely all about it. I was always quite new to the whole world. So at that point, I was like, I want to find out everything. In my later life, I think of the older I've become, I've actually relaxed a little bit more. So like we'll get into it later, but some of the running stuff I've done, I've actually gone into with a the exact opposite approach, where a bit more weaponized autism or a little bit more training, a little bit more preparation and reading about the event probably would have helped me. But yeah, no, back then I think didn't even Ben Lewis get pretty annoyed with me at one point? Didn't he say just stop reading about things?
Yeah.
That sounds like Ben.
That's I love Ben Lewis.
That sounds like Ben.
I thought he did really well that year. Like, I think he definitely got the best out of this.
Yeah, it was great. So we then obviously went into the final and then went off, and then I think we were in third. The video's on YouTube somewhere.
Yeah.
But we were in third place. The Italians basically just rode off, doing their 38 strokes a minute thing, just like growing really, really aggressively. We were just behind the Kiwis, and we rode through the Kiwis in the last 500, and then
Germans came through us.
somehow I didn't even notice the Germans on the other side of the course, and they were there just like, they just teleported and just in front of us on the finish line. At that point, I thought, okay, well, a couple of weeks ago, I didn't think I was going to be here. A week ago, I didn't think I was going to get a medal. So, yeah, I'm obviously pissed off not to have a gold and to have lost a silver, but I've still got some silverware.
Where'd you keep it?
I actually don't know.
My
Criminal.
I don't.
Mine's in the corner up there.
Yeah. It's behind the T-shirt that Ertan looking at.
It was at my parents', and my parents have just moved, so it's probably going to be in a box somewhere. It's
Got all my medals in the box. That's my parents' house as well.
yeah, it's
Classic strategy.
So it's wherever my parents have put it. I hope they're not throwing it away.
Of course they won't have thrown it away.
I don't know. You never met my dad. Like, you talk about weaponized autism for me, but his is like malicious autism. I love it, really, Dad.
I like how you're just running with this.
So this, like you said, maybe a bit of like a tough route to this point. Maybe not getting the cruise you wanted, not necessarily getting silverware or the wins you wanted. What was the sense after this with rowing? How you wanted? Were you like, cool, I'm going somewhere now. Things are happening. I want to stay at it. I want to work hard.
Yeah.
Are you? So you've just left school now. So you already know you're going to UL?
Yeah. At that point, I did. So it was quite funny because Max, who was our cox, he was at UL. So then I ended up. So I met him. He coxed me at a World Championships, and then I went off to uni with him, where he was my cox for UL. And then going to uni was not obviously, but it was pretty difficult because I turned up to uni. I turned up to the boat club being ineligible for all the student events. I don't know if the rules have changed now, but if you've got an under 23 medal, if you've done anything, you're not allowed to do club events. You're not allowed to do student events. So pretty much at the age of 18, I wasn't able to do any student events or club events. So that just made my whole domestic campaign, that it just completely nullified my whole domestic campaign. So I turned up there, and then obviously you've got Freshers Week, you've got a lot of different things to navigate.
Especially in London, yeah.
Oh yeah, London Freshers Week was great fun. And
Enough said.
enough said. And so that made things quite difficult. So then I did like headed head of the river with UL, and at that point I just disappeared off. They then went into the temple, the PA, all of their things. And I think that year I tried to do diamonds. Didn't have enough points to do it, so they put me in a single. And then Brian Young, my coach, shout out to you, Brian. He basically entered me in a whole bunch of different sculling events around the country to just try and. Yes, Peterborough Regatta 2011. That was the last time I did Peterborough Regatta.
Here we go. Now we're going to the real juicy stuff.
Yes, because this was back before the events had changed. So I won like IM2 or IM3 singles met, and then went straight up to Peterborough the next day to race in a couple of different events there just to get more points. So it was like absolute shameless pot hunting. And at one point I was just up there on my own, borrowed someone's boat. I was just kept on going back and forth, just like winning these races, and people cottoned on to what I was doing. So at one point there was a crowd of people booing me. And
who hasn't been shameless pot racing? You haven't rowed until you've started going to some tiny little regatta.
And then at one point, the funniest thing
At
about that,
At least you're actually doing it for a reason.
and does that make it better or worse?
No, definitely. Other opposed to just most people who go pot handling just are looking for like, how good does that go? Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And at one point, I entered a Chiswick regatta. It was one of the regattas. It's just outside the UL boathouse, and no one else had entered. So then Brian, my coach, entered someone else just to be cannon fodder for me. Entered us in like elite, senior, and IM1 or something. So we had to race each other 3 times, with the instructions being for me to beat him every single time. So. And because of the timings, the umpire just said, "Do you want to just start it now? I know the timing is like, you're just not supposed to be doing this for another hour." But so anyway, we just went back and forth with me beating this guy 3 times in a row, and I bought him a few beers afterwards to apologize for that. And anyway, I got enough points. Then that was when something else happened. That was when Scott Durant he was in that visitors 4 with Tarrant and
Fred Gill?
I think it was Fred.
Was that the year they won?
Yeah,
Where Fred was in it?
Yeah, no, it wasn't the year. No, it wasn't the year they won. That was because the year I'm talking about, they got beaten by the lightweights in 2011.
Different one, yeah.
So it was like Fred, Tarrant, and then Mason Durant.
Yeah.
And Scott he'd injured himself. So then, the training had injured him. I don't think he did it to himself deliberately. And Henry calls me up and says, shout out to Henry. I know you're going through some stuff right now.
By the time this comes out, it might be over.
We may have to cut that out.
I think that's funny.
And
Probably got that.
okay, anyway. And he says, Dan, Scott's injured. We need you to race the 4 for Henley. So anyway, I jump in, spend the next few weeks training, race Marlow Regatta with them, narrowly get beaten by the lightweights. And then the day of Henley qualifiers, I get told Scott's coming back. So then I have to race back to UL to pick up my boat to then race to then do Henley qualifiers. And I just didn't do very well. I was just quite tired and I hadn't been sculling. And obviously psychologically it was quite difficult. So then I think it was fastest non-qualifier. Dave beat me. Dave beat me that year.
11 or
2011. That was the full Eagles champion year.
I think Dave was in my boat then.
In 2011, when you did visitors?
I think he was in my boat, yeah. He was in my impact at Uncle Mel.
Oh, in your actual boat, not in a crew with you?
No, yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I mean, that's brutally difficult. Especially to like just be ramping up for a campaign and then have it like swept away from under you and have to try and mentally get up to something completely different.
Yeah, it didn't pay off. So you can see me, there's the Road TV footage of me coming past the island. My legs are coming down so slowly and I just do not look like someone who's got any juice. I'm also not rowing well. I look like someone who just doesn't really want to be there. So I obviously end up not, and Henley, coming up Henley, it's a horrible headwind. You're going against the stream. So it's 8 or 9 minutes of just, I don't want to be here. So then obviously fastest non-qualifier. And then the next year, that was when I ended up did the same thing, rode with my UL crewmates until head of the river. And then I got put into a visitors 8 with, Brooks, Malsey, Newcastle. We got Matt Roster's younger brother, George, in there. So did that. And then we did the ladies play. That was all right. It went pretty well. We made the semi-final, got beaten by Pat LePage in the rowing for Harvard. And then the tough thing about that year was the fact that I'd rowed 1 fours head with 3 of those guys. And then those 3 people and someone else then went on to win the PA that year, which is a Cogs Fours, student Cogs Fours, which obviously I couldn't be part of. So I spent a lot of my rowing career feeling like a little bit of a misfit. 2013, that was my year abroad. Because I was studying French, so I had to go and live in France for a year. Pretty much just trained in Avignon, down south of France, and then that was the year where I actually took on, like, made huge improvements to my erg, because in the background to all of this, I'd had selectors constantly saying your erg's not good enough. You're not strong enough. And that was when I basically just really committed to doing so much erg training. And I took about 8 seconds off. I went from 609. I went from 609 to 601 that year. And I was like, yeah, this is going really well. Trials went really well. Rode in a pair with Jamie Cook, Ollie Cook's younger brother. That went really well. And then because loads of those guys had won the student event at Henley, they weren't eligible. So then for the first time, I was able to row with my crewmates. So I did a visitors four, and then got beaten on the front, won one round, and then got beaten by Molsey. That was Fred, and I can't remember who else was in there. Who was running from Molsey at that time? It was like Fred. There was the South African guy, Bow.
Pete. Was it Pete?
Pete Lambert?
No, it was not Pete Lambert. It was he was part, because in 2015 he was part of the.
He was doing some of the feet.
We went to European. I thought it was going to be me and him for last seat on bow side for the European 8, and then his back exploded.
Yeah, that sounded like him.
Not literally, but yeah. I can't remember the name, but yeah. So that crew beat you. So what was the motivation for you with rowing? You know, like you said, feeling like you were kind of ineligible for some events, unable to row with the people you were training with. Why did you keep coming back for more? Glutton for punishment.
Great phrase, that.
Honestly, I don't really know. Because it was just at that point, it's just a habit. You've been doing something for so long that it's just, if you see a dog trying to get some food, if it's completely out of reach, it's not interested. But if it's just there, tantalizingly close, that's what makes it want it even more. And that's how I felt, because during that time I kept getting selected for under 23s. I kept getting selected for GB, so I was given enough. I almost felt like I was being breadcrumbed. I was being given enough tangible success, a GB vest, because as we said earlier, you get selected for something, like you're already doing phenomenally well. Like that is an amazing achievement. At the time, I'd come away from a 4th place, a 5th place, and think, I'm really bad at this. This is awful. But actually, how many people are years later? I now see people are gloating, or not necessarily gloating, but they're proud of going to trials or beating people at trials, and or winning an event at a local regatta. So then to go to trials, to go through that process, to go to trials, to then do well, to then get selected, to have that GB vest, and then to make a final, like you've done so well. So I look back at that now, and I think actually I'm quite proud of what I achieved, even though it's, I never went to the Olympics, I never won a world championships, but I still did.
I think being selected to represent your country is always something that shouldn't be underestimated, and that's something that sticks with you for the rest of your life. So that's a story that 99.9% of people that ever walk this planet will never be able to tell.
It's definitely a difficult thing about being part of the GB system, obviously sort of post Redgrave and Pinson.
Because you're expected to win.
Yeah, and so many people have won gold in it, and like that's always it. And then you get to that point, don't you, where actually to win is to just achieve what you came to do, and to get anything other than a win is failure. So you have crews, walking away with bronze and silvers feeling like they failed, because it's sort of understood that in order to win, you definitely need to go into that race thinking that you could. I don't think many people have ever won an international race thinking, oh, who knows? They're like, look, if we do this and this is our race plan, everything goes right, we could win it. So I think that's always a difficult situation to go through. I think also, from my experience, maybe as you get closer up to the top, because everything is so dependent on performance, this kind of like hierarchy, you're constantly measuring it. Oh, that person's a little bit better than me, and that person's a little bit worse than here, and like we're all kind of here. And you have funny things here. You go out in a crew and you say, "Well, that was a shit row." You're like, compared to what? And I think the best story of that is we spoke with Alex Partridge was Noddy. You old boy as well. Yeah. He was quite well known for sort of being quite harsh on himself and the crews, and always trying to set a standard that was incredibly high. Other athletes who rode him would say, "Oh, geez, you really." anyway, yeah, the story goes that he was doing a pair with Alex Partridge, and they finish one loop, and Noddy's saying, "Oh, it's crap. This is crap. And Partridge says, "I'm saying, I don't know who you've been rowing with, but it must have been Jesus, because this is going pretty well." Because it's so, when you're trying for that last tiny amount and you're searching for perfection, all of a sudden your perspective on what isn't good can really get skewed.
So I remember in R4, we had that, so we jumped into it and it just went really well. It was like really nicely balanced. It was just, we were all just moving really well. And then we had a couple of outings where it just didn't feel quite as good, and it's still going really, really well. And then you obviously turn up to race and you're never going to feel comfortable when you're spending 6 minutes working really, really hard. You're not going to feel particularly comfortable. And yeah, we went through that. And then you look at, it always happens in rowing as well. I see this now whenever I'm coaching people. You'll film them and then you'll say to them, like, how's that feel? And they say, oh, it feels really awful. It feels unbalanced, and it feels like we're missing a catch, we're missing everything. And then you show them the video and they go, well, that's what it looks like. Looks pretty good. Yeah. It's like, I'm happy with that.
No.
Yeah, we can perceive, like, perception could be so different from reality. That's what's so good about video analysis. Is it to have someone who's like gobbing off and then be like, or the opposite, being like, no, I'm doing exactly what you said, coach. And you're like, oh, look at the video. No, you're not. Yeah, it's difficult. I don't know how you fix that problem. I mean, I definitely, there's, also races where, if we win this heat or if we win the semi-final, we're not going to celebrate. We're not going to show any sign of happiness. We're not going to let the opposition know that that we're happy with that. There's this whole sort of like measure your response, make sure you don't give anything away, be really cagey.
I actually love seeing people celebrate at the Olympics the people who've scraped through into a final. I think that's so sweet.
I want to, and I mean, when we have Olympians here and we ask them about how they've done, and I'm like, listen, for all of us that wanted it and didn't get there, you better tell me it was great, and you better tell me that you loved it, and I want to know that you like punched the air. Yeah, 100%.
Have you ever spoken to Paul Bennett recently?
We haven't, no.
Shout out Paul. It's so funny because so obviously I was at UL with him, and then raced each other once or twice in on the international circuit.
Yeah, 2013 World Cup 2, Dorney.
Yeah, that was the pinnacle of my career, and that was a very small stepping stone for him.
Well, you got to mention it.
Well, obviously he went on to win the Olympics 3 years later.
But that day,
yes, but that
stop putting yourself down, mate. You were at a senior international event, invited. Were you with Jamie? When we
yeah, that was 2013. Yeah, I was in the pair with Jamie, and then that was the first time. Well, first time. That was the only we raced the Kiwi pair that year, and
on that, like, lined up.
Yeah, lined up with that. Well, you basically spend about 400-500 meters, and you're thinking, "Oh my god, I'm racing the Kiwi pair. I'm racing the Kiwi pair." For the first minute and a half, you're very aware that you can see them, and then it's like they suddenly hit warp speed, and then you take a stroke, and then they're just suddenly not there anymore. It was because obviously at that time I was 21.
Still under 23.
Yeah, still at my finally, so I would have been 21. So that was my final year of under 23. So, and they've won the Olympics. They've set a new world record of 6:08 in the pair. So at that point we were probably a high 6:20s, low 6, around about that 6:30 mark kind of pair. So we were a long way off them. So then to be thinking, oh my god, we're racing the Kiwi pair, and there was part of me was just a little bit of a fanboy. I was fanboy.
I had that moment.
I was like, oh my god, we're racing the Kiwi pair, and then it's like, it's like that South Park meme, and they're gone, and you're just suddenly like looking at everyone else. You think, okay, right, let's race other people.
So was that in the first heat?
First heat,
because I think you also had, because Paul and Carl were in that heat as well, no?
Yeah, so we raced Paul and Carl there. That was when the Kiwis, they just left everyone for dead. They may as well have just given them a gold medal there and then. They then did their thing. Then we ended up in the same repechage as Carl and Carl and Paul. That was when we'd knocked them into the B final, and at that time, I was this cocky little 21-year-old thinking, oh, this is amazing. We beat the GB senior pair. And yeah, obviously, like they've then gone on to do much bigger and better things. But yeah, it was a nice day. It was a nice day. We then ended up coming fifth in the final at that World Cup. The Kiwi, we were 20 odd seconds off the Kiwis.
I mean, if anyone who measures themselves off the Kiwis is going to have a bad day.
Even the Sinkovic brothers.
Yeah. Even the Sinkovics.
Yeah.
Compare like them against the Kiwis.
Yeah. So even they will have a bad day thinking about that. So
I'd love to have seen that race though, between the Kiwis and the Sinkovics at their peak.
We talked about that on the last episode.
Okay, I'll pick it up. When you did a race,
they didn't, but they were talking about wanting to.
All right, I'll tune into that then. I won't spoil it.
Yeah. So yeah, good day.
Oh, so you see, that's what I was going to say. So you talk to Paul, and he still talks down on himself, and he says, "You first to the Olympic." I'm there thinking, like, "Oh, come on, you realized my dream. You went to Rio. You won the Olympics. You got a gold medal. This is amazing." And he just says, "Oh, you know what? Like, it felt like relief. It felt like relief, and also it was just another race." And because it's like we say, it's like part of that mentality of, you're expected to win. And that's why I love seeing people, who celebrate making the final. I love seeing people who, they celebrate with a bronze medal. They look so happy. I think that's so sweet, because I spent so long thinking, I spent so long thinking I was really bad at rowing and that I wasn't amounting to anything. And actually,
when you're comparing yourself
to all of these other people that we all know, yeah. But then in the grand scheme of things, like you're looking at just the apex of athletes. If you're comparing yourself to them, you're never going to feel great.
Yeah, and I mean, like, I was briefly, obviously, in the senior team in 2013 when Paul had like finished with Oxford and was coming in, and we did. I remember one session where it was like 2Ks at pace with like a 3-minute race or something, and like Paul went like back to back sub-6, and I was like, jaw drop. Like we're all, by nature being there, quite physiologically gifted, but Paul was one of them guys that's just like, wow, like his engine was like unreal.
It wasn't even like, he was very tall. He was 6'8", 6'9", but he wasn't very heavy. He was like mid-90s. He was probably 95 kg. He was not particularly heavy. He just had, for some reason, he could just pull really, really hard. Or at the very least, he could pull close to his max for a very long period of time.
It'd be cool to get him on. Paul, if you're listening, give us a shout. We'll get you a number off Ertan. Yeah, I'll speak to you later. So yeah, 2013 as well. You then under 23s as well. You went to that top 4.
Yes,
yeah.
We DNS'd in the B final.
Oh no.
Yeah,
talk us through that.
We just weren't very good. We had a couple of sessions. I had a couple of sessions where we went ridiculously quickly, but in quite a fast tailwind. For whatever reason, I don't know. Like this will always be a mystery to me. But we did it like 2x1K, and we did like 100 and something percent GMT, fastest out of all of the boats there. And we went like 2:47 and 2:48 for both of them. And we went ridiculously quickly, and we thought, oh my God, yeah, this is it. We're going to win a gold. We're going to set a world record. But then we had other sessions. Most other sessions, we weren't going that quickly. And then we get out there and we just didn't make the final. We just weren't quick. And then, there was from my memory, I think Stuart Innes, he was in the under 23 quad. He then got taken out because he got ill. So then they took one of the guys in R4 to go into the quad. And then, anyway, we turned up to, the way I remember it, could be wrong, but we turned up to race the B final, and we found our boat had already been de-rigged and put on the trailer. So then we didn't, I was pretty gutting because we didn't have that cathartic moment of, we didn't have any closure to the campaign. It just sort of fizzled out, which I felt like was a pretty apt metaphor for my rowing career as well.
Yeah, that's tough. So that's tough. Obviously, for what do you think? Do you think it was that you didn't produce the same speed, or do you think you turned up to a really fast field? Bit of both.
No,
Or that you peaked before the event even?
I literally think, because we were a mismatch of different people, of like different rowing styles, and I think we only got it together when we were in fast conditions, where we were only able to row together when it was fast conditions, and you could kind of hammer the catch and get. I think we just got away with that. But then in non-fast conditions, I think we just pulled the boat apart. So it was a case of we either, because we had some decent horsepower. We did have some decent horsepower in there, but if it didn't go well, it would either go very well or really badly. There was no in between. And I think base pace, we were just, more often than not, we were just not fast.
It's a very extreme crew then, from one end to the other.
Yeah. If the conditions had been a really, really fast tailwind, classic Caversham, probably could have done pretty well. But
that's tough. Yeah, it's tough when you could be good in certain conditions and not others. Yeah, or when you can't put your finger on why it's moved. Like our Coxhaul went really well, but it wasn't because before the first session we sat down right, we're going to do exactly this, and this is why it's going to go well.
Just collect.
Yeah, sometimes it just happens. I mean, it just happens. There were some good boat movers. Basically, I had a couple of decent people that knew how to row that I could follow. Yeah. I'm putting myself down. Like, it's just like, that's the whole thing, isn't it? It's so easy to just be like, oh, well, I did this, but but I wasn't the best in the crew, or our crew wasn't the top crew in that event, or yeah, we won a medal in Coxhaul, but we all know that the Cox S4 is hard. Like, it's so easy to do.
Because you sometimes will video analyze something and you'll say, why is that going so well? And you just don't know. This is something that's so frustrating about the sport. You can look at certain people, you can look at certain rowers, certain crews, and you can't quite put your finger on it as to why they're going so quickly. Like the Kiwi heavyweight double from 2012. Yeah. They were small. They didn't row textbook, but they were so effective. They were so fast. They were just like a hot knife through butter in that last 500. And if anyone, no coach is ever going to look at that, is going to look at their technique, put it in slow motion, and say, I want you to copy that. But they were so effective. Like, sometimes things just aren't, your textbook approach just isn't going to work.
Yeah, and it's just been so long being in the 23 system and like having the GB rowing, like, this is how we want to row, like, this is how you row, this is how you go really fast. Yeah. And then you go and you're like watching the World Cup on TV and you're looking at the single scullers final and you're like,
what is going on there? But then to continue with the Kiwi double, yeah, the coach you'd be an absolute fool to then try and stop, tell them to stop doing what they're doing. Like, they are underpowered and going significantly faster than everyone else.
How do you coach that?
Well, you don't. If someone says, okay, I want you to change everything you're doing, that would be an absolute maniac.
Yeah. Is it a case of you're not supposed to look at what the athlete is doing, but just pay attention to the blade, pay attention to the bow? Classic Tim Foster, Jürgen.
Yeah, Tim Foster said that about Jürgen, yeah.
What did he say?
Tim Foster, Hunts and Redgrave were doing a pair at Henley, and Jürgen, it was obviously an earlier round, they were cycling along. Jürgen was cycling with Tim, and Jürgen said to him, Tim, I'm not going to do a Jürgen impression.
Sure, do a Tim impression.
Oh, I'm not going to show you either. Do you ever wonder why I'm not worried about the way that they're rowing? As in, sort of hunking it along. And he was like, oh, why? And he said, well, look at the bow. Like, in terms of what Jürgen was like, I'm looking at how what's going on inside the boat is relevant as long as the boat is moving in the way that I want it to. And it's that kind of thing. There's certain things that you can forgive or ignore, assuming other things are happening. But yeah, I mean, to me, I rowed at quite a high level as well. And I still feel like rowing is a complete mystery to me.
He's like, yeah. So, like I say, I coach some vets rowing. in my free time. And sometimes they'll ask me these really, really specific questions about something. And like, well, why does this not feel good? Why is this not going very well? And I look at it and I'm thinking, that looks like it's going really well. That looks like it's going pretty well. And then they go off and race. And then it turns out it is going pretty well. And I'm thinking, why do you not feel happy with this? Maybe that is just something about a sport in general, or maybe it's rowing that just makes you feel always really, really unhappy.
Yeah,
with yourself or with your situation, just always striving for more.
I think it's part of the driven people. I think it's the Chris Williamson quote, isn't it? If you're extremely driven and you want to do extremely well, congratulations, you probably will, but you'll also be quite unhappy because the person who's driving themselves to the top is always, the analogy would be like, you're always looking at the next step, and never turn around and looking at the giant staircase that you've come up.
Yeah.
No one ever turns around and is like, Jesus Christ, we came a long way. You're just like, okay, I've done that step. Where's the next step? Where's the next step? Where's the next step? And talking about that, post 2013, did you want to keep rowing? Did you want to have a crack at senior rowing?
I tried. So I did. That was in the final year of my degree, and I had some. Basically, I was put in a bit of an awkward situation, and I ended up having to step away from UL, and I just did my own training. I ended up having to really focus on my degree at that point. And then at the end of that year, that was when I was then going to join Leander or Moles. At that point, I was going to try and give it a proper crack. But then I got really, really ill. So I was still training really, really hard. And I was just coming home one day and I basically had a little bit of flu and I just had this lingering cough. And then out of nowhere, I just started having an asthma attack. And I've never had asthma before. Apart from 2007, I was hospitalized with some kind of viral chest infection, which gave me some lasting problems. But yeah, so that happened. I ended up in hospital for a few weeks. And then I spent the rest of the next year constantly in and out of hospital. So I just kept having asthma attacks. It would just come on from absolutely nothing. I was then just suffocating and I didn't have any medication for it. I didn't know what was going on. I just kept on getting really, really badly ill and kept on going into hospital. So then that basically just put a nail in the coffin of ever being able to do that. So that was,
I think there was some point during that year where your mum brought your rowing machine to me to get it serviced.
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do.
Because I remember she came to service, and I don't know if or probably told her that we'd rowed together and stuff. So I talked a little bit with your mum, and she was saying a little bit about...
Shout out, Mrs. Hazine.
Yeah, about how you were struggling a little bit with basically having sort of had the decision taken away from you in some respects. And I think, it's not long after the same thing happened to me. Maybe I'd had a year longer sort of thinking about this for my own self. And we talked about a few different things. I remember her said something about, I'm definitely going to go and talk to Ertan about a few of these things because it seems like you've like figured it out. And I was like, I think maybe I'm just sort of 12 months further down the line.
So I was also thinking about this. On one of your previous podcasts, you talk about rowing is like, you're like soldiers. You say I can't remember who it was with, but you say like you're training, and then when you go out to race, it's like you're going out to war.
Yes, with Dave Bell.
Yeah, it's with Dave, but that's the one. And I was thinking about that analogy because, funny enough, when I was talking to the last time I saw Stuart Ennis, he asked me why I still train so much. And part of the reason is, if we're going to continue with that analogy, it's because I never had that big moment. I never had the Olympics. I never had that moment where I realized I could stand down. I never received the order to stand down. I was always training, and then everything fizzled away. I didn't have that big moment where it was okay to actually just relax.
Yeah.
So I've now almost become stuck in this, not necessarily an unhealthy. I mean, we'll talk about the ultra marathon.
Yeah.
But yeah, I never really got that moment.
Oh, I don't know if she said it to you, but one of the things that I said to your mum at the time, which really helped me, I don't know if I heard it somewhere or I just sort of thought about it or something kind of clicked in my head where I was like, right, I'm sat here unhappy because, I was in the senior team and it didn't quite work. I'm post 2013, to watch, I came up with Will Satch, watch people who got medals gone to Olympics. It's tough. It's tough to do. I'm so happy for them, but also I want to be in that position. And I just remember thinking, like, imagine if I could like travel back in time to like that 14-year-old kid who like decided that the Olympics was it. And I could go and sit with that kid and say, I'm sure I've said this before. Sorry if you've heard this speech before. Sit down with that kid and be like, look, listen, like, we're not going to go to the Olympics. Like, I'm sorry. It ain't going to happen. But I tell you what we're going to do. You're going to win Henley. You're going to go to Leander. You're going to go to under 23s. You're going to get world championship medals. You're going to go seniors. Like, that kid would be so happy. So happy. Unimaginable. I couldn't even believe that I could have a career like that in rowing. At 14, like, rowing, didn't even know it could be a career, that I could ever get paid to row, or any of these things could happen. Yet here I am, unhappy because I didn't get the next thing. And I think that's always been like, and I've spoken to other athletes maybe who've struggled with that. That seems to be something that gets through a lot, where you're like, oh yeah, like I would have been happy with this 10 years ago.
Yeah, my mom never told me that. That would have been very helpful 10 years ago.
Sorry, I should have given you a call.
So if we could go back to a 23-year-old, that's what I would have, 10 years ago, that's what I would have said.
Well, yeah. And then, so for you, a little bit, that's why you sort of kept trying to push into other big. I remember when I left rowing as well, I had all these huge, I'm going to cycle Land's End to John O'Groats. I'm going to climb Everest. I'm going to become an Olympic bobsleigh. I like applied to like the bobsleigh team, and I was like, what was my other way to, I think I got invited to a trial in Bath. And then I started doing a bit more research, and they were like, well, yeah, obviously, because we don't really have any real bobsleigh tracks. We basically spend like 6 months of every year in Europe. And I was like, do you know, like the one thing I don't think I want to do, having just finished a rowing career, is like not have any time to myself or be in the country at all. So I at that point pulled out. But yeah, you have all this, like, I'm going to do all these other huge things. Like, what was it like for you?
I was trying, because like initially I spent a little bit of time obviously figuring out what I wanted to do. Is then a little while before I then found teaching, which I really, really enjoy now. So that's obviously helped, like having that direction, because you're so focused on the rowing at the time. Everything else just seems to, even though you're studying and you're doing a bit of coaching in the part times for a little bit of money, everything still just seems very much focused on that goal. So now having a stable career, that's helped a lot, and I generally felt okay sports wise. I didn't consider that it may have been an issue until obviously, as we talked about, the ultramarathon.
Let's get into it.
Very nearly killed me. That was the point at which I thought, oh, actually, yeah, this isn't very good.
Go on, then. How did that come about?
So I was, I pretty much, like, even after retirement, does it count as retirement? Even after stop.
You're an under 23 world medalist. Did you make an Instagram post?
I've never had Instagram.
So you didn't make an Instagram post saying you're still in the sport? Oh, you're like really chill. I remember time and
like I get called up any day now. So I still just carried on erging, carried on lifting weights, because apart from anything, I enjoy it. I enjoy being active. And then for a really long time, for a few years, I was doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And
interesting.
Yeah, it's good fun.
Yeah.
And then I was at, what would it have been? It would have been like end of 2023. I was at a friend's birthday, and he just said, "Hey, Ertan, I'm running Brighton Marathon next year. Do you want to do it with me?" And I thought, well, okay, I've never run before. I tried. I basically spent a little bit of time, March 2020, when the gyms closed. I tried running, and then my knees just went to hell. So I thought, and that was when I then moved to skipping instead. I just got a skipping rope, did that, and then also got an erg as well. I bought an erg off eBay or something.
Why didn't bone off me? What the hell?
Okay, right. Next pandemic. Yeah, so pretty much any time I'd ever tried to run, at UL, we used to do, or there were a couple of times we did try some running and people just got injured. Like, to me, running, especially when you're a rower's weight, when you're used to exercising sitting down, running is not for, and you're used to being relatively heavy, it's not good. So I always thought, well, maybe not. But then I also thought it could be a bucket list thing. Let's take a look at this. So I then go on Google, start looking. I Google like Brighton Marathon, look at the course profile, very hilly. It's uphill very early on. I thought, I don't want to do that. So then I Google best marathons in the UK, see Edinburgh Marathon. I think, okay, look at the course profile, flat, fine. Oh, let's do that. So I contact my friend, and I'm fully expecting to persuade him to not do not to do Brighton, to do Edinburgh instead. That failed, so I ended up doing Edinburgh on my own. And
Never did Brighton though.
No, I never did Brighton. He did, and went pretty well for him. And then, so then I spent a few months getting into it. Went to my local running shop, got my gait analyzed. Got some proper running shoes. Turns out that makes a huge difference. If you get the cheapest running shoes possible, it might not be the best thing for you.
Yeah, who don't know?
You don't. It was news to me. And so anyway, I did a few months of training, and then
I mean, that's pretty much that's what most people do before a marathon, right? Just a couple of months training.
Maybe, I don't know. What do most people?
Probably more than 2 months. Are you saying you literally just...
No, it was probably about November, December. I did Couch to 5K.
Okay.
And yeah, no, I literally started as Couch to 5K. Like a couple of times a week, literally let's just go running. And then Lars was doing
really sensible,
doing a lot of erging. And then it got to the point where I got bored of just doing the short intervals. So then I started doing like slightly longer runs, and then it was probably around February where I actually started ramping up. So then it was like February, March, April, May. So it was in about 3-4-ish months. I took it quite seriously. Did Edinburgh, and at that point, every single time I went out running, I was just getting faster and faster. So I had no idea what to aim for. So then on the day I was thinking, hopefully I can get below 320. I went off a 310 pace. And then just got faster, and I ended up doing officially 3 hours and 4 seconds. So I spent the whole last little bit looking at my watch going, oh my God, I've got this in the bag. I've got a sub 3 in the bag. What I hadn't clocked was that what I hadn't been aware of, because I think I just got really lucky with the whole thing, because there were a lot of things I should have taken a bit more seriously, or at least done a bit more research about. I just thought, I'm just going to go and run 26.2 miles.
Ignorance is bliss sometimes.
And so I spent the whole last little bit going, oh my God, I've got this in the bag. I hadn't realized that you end up running, unless you do the most perfectly straight course, you run a little bit more than the exact distance.
Oh, that's true.
So my Garmin had me do a 2 hours 58.50, but officially I did a couple of minutes slower than that, because I ended up doing about 300 and something meters more. So I'm going there, I've got this in the bag. And then I get to where my watch says I've done 42.2 K. I think, where's the finish line? And then I turn a corner. So I've gone to the end of what I think is the final straight, turn a corner, and I see the actual final straight. And I think I've gone from, I've got this in the bag to, okay, I may not have this in the bag now. So then, it's hilarious looking at the Strava profile, because it's basically good, slacking off a little bit, and then it's run. Like the fastest I went for the whole thing was in that last couple 100 meters. And you see the photo of me crossing the finish line. It says, there's a big sign saying, you've done it. Other people are all smiling. Everyone's happy. And then there's me closing my watch, just looking really, turning my watch up, looking really, really angry. So I immediately signed up for Edinburgh the next year, which is next month. So after
That's fast though. That's and
no, I was happy. I was
for a first time marathon. Ridiculous. 6 months from deciding to start with only 4 months of decent training.
I know. I got really lucky. I got really lucky. I was really, really happy with that.
How is that lucky? I don't know. What do you mean lucky? I think that's really impressive.
Great question.
A lot of people. Because the reason I say lucky is because there were so many things I could have. A lot for most people, if you just take up a random sport, you could just get, I didn't get injured. That, for one, I didn't get injured. I consider that lucky. I also had good shoes. I did a lot of things very, very, very right. But I look back at that and I think, like, I don't know, that's like, bearing in mind at the start, it was supposed to be a bucket list thing. It was supposed to be it was supposed to be a case of, let's just try and finish it. Then it was, okay, maybe I can get up to 3:30. Maybe I can, it did feel quite lucky.
Okay. Sorry.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
I was going to say, so 3 hours and 4 seconds is 4 minutes, 16 seconds per kilometer. That is ridiculously fast. That's less than 40 minutes per 10K.
I was
4 times over.
I was about 96, 97 when I did. Yeah, I was still really, I was like over at that point. I'd basically just been doing a diet of jiu-jitsu and weight. So I was pretty heavy. So I was pretty much like, I basically went from about 102 to about 96 when I did it. I'm a lot lighter now that I'm now taking it like seriously for next month. So I'm now probably like 92, 93.
And presumably you're doing it again because you want to go sub 3? Or do you have any, have you?
No, I got.
You've really stepped up.
I got a time.
Yeah, don't say it. You don't.
I got a time, right? Like, we'll see how it goes.
You've definitely stepped up. I can see that look in your face.
We'll see how it goes.
Cool.
So then after that, I then looked at other things to do in the meantime. So I've discovered this thing called a backyard ultra, which is essentially 4.2 or 4.25 miles, and it's a loop. And you run that loop every hour on the hour, and you keep going until only one person remains. And
how's that? How long's that taking? Sort of first few loops.
So I got it dreadfully wrong. So I did it with this guy called Will from UL, and then Noddy's younger brother Ben. He came to be essentially our glorified water boy. So it turns out that we did not prepare for it at all. We literally just got our tents, got a whole bunch of food. Turns out we signed up to the hardest one of this format in the UK because it was a huge amount of elevation. It was in August, so it was a really, really hot day. Pretty much everything was not just against us, but everything was against everyone. And the night before, we had pretty much Pringles and non-alcoholic beer to drink because everywhere all the pubs had stopped serving. So it was just, we approached it terribly. I then wasn't really aware of how to do it. So I initially just like ran every single lap. I basically just ran and was trying to be the first of each time. And I thought, well, I'll just have a lot more time to recover. Turns out that is what idiots do. Because all you're doing there is damaging your muscles.
And what are you running in? Half an hour or
no? Because there was about 300, somewhere between 300 and 400 meters of elevation every lap,
right.
And it's through grass and rocks. Like it's really, really bad terrain. So I started out. I think my fastest one was 39, maybe. But I was running up the hills. I was doing everything wrong, and the people who ended up winning were just walking most of it. And
they were consistent.
Yeah, they basically treated it as, I'm just going to run. The winner did 28 hours. So they basically just did a 28-hour run very gently rather than me, who was just hard. And then a long time 20 minutes to recover it's not enough to recover from how hard you've gone. So
the speed didn't matter. The number of loops didn't matter.
Yeah.
The total running time is the only thing that mattered.
Yeah.
You have basically over one every hour.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then at the start of
here we go. You get knocked out.
Yeah.
It's so I was trying to get
from the former, because then some other people might not be familiar with it as well.
It's literally a case of at the start of every hour, everyone needs to be there. If everyone's not there, ready to go, they then get disqualified. You then run the loop, and then you have 60 minutes minus however long it took you to do that lap to then recover, go to the toilet, have some food, whatever, and you literally just keep doing that until only one person remains.
How many laps until you realized you were really in trouble?
3. And so I was in, because at that point you've done 6.8, you've done like 20 kilometers running uphill on a really hot day. So I was in a lot of pain very early on. And so my friend Will, who's doing it, he said he stopped after 6 hours And he said to me, and at the time I remember thinking, wimp. And it turns out he was onto something. It turns out he was right. And he said, well, yeah, I felt like I was getting injured, so I just decided to stop. And I don't know what was going on. I just thought, okay, I'll just keep going. And I just kept going. So I think I made it 12, 13 hours. It was basically like started at 7 a.m. I think it was about 7 or 8 p.m. where I finally stopped, but I was in a really, really bad way. So if I got something known as rhabdomyolysis, which is where do you guys know what that is?
Yeah. Good. Explain, yeah.
Essentially, so I'm obviously not a doctor or a scientist, but my shock horror, right? So basically the muscles get broken down so badly that they then disintegrate or they break down and they get into your bloodstream, and then that comes around and poisons your kidneys. So that happened in conjunction with like me in having the early stages of a stroke. So for a little bit of context, my dad had a stroke when he was my age, and I've inherited an antithrombin 3 deficiency, which makes me, it's like a protein that I'm lacking or very mildly in my blood, which makes me a little bit more prone to clots. So I was getting, basically after that entire period of time, I hadn't gone to the toilet once, even though I was drinking loads and loads and loads, just wasn't going to the toilet. And when I was getting the rhabdomyolysis, I didn't realize that was what was going on. So I thought I was getting cramps. So someone then gave me some salt tablets, which was the worst thing you could have done. So basically my blood was already like sludge. And then I put some salt into it. And on top of the fact that my muscles were breaking down and poisoning my kidneys. So I was then at the top of it. At this point, I was at the top of the hill. And at one point, I'd pretty much found my pace. I realized I'd gone off too fast. And then I was just latched onto this woman I met who was doing it. And we then were doing it like around 56, 57 minutes. And I thought, this is okay. And then suddenly I couldn't keep up with her and I could barely walk. Then I ended up on the top of this hill on my own. And I then just got the worst pain in my chest. It felt like I was being punched in the chest every time. I got this ridiculously sharp pain in my knee. Actually, I got the sharp pain in my knee first. Then the thing happened with my chest, and then it felt like my head was about to explode. Then I started losing my vision, and I just couldn't lift my hands up. And I was there just thinking, oh my God, what is going on right now? And I genuinely the most scared I have ever been. And the funniest thing was, I was in the middle of an argument with my girlfriend at the time. And my first thought was, if I die, does this mean I win the argument or I lose the argument?
The weird places your brain goes.
Yeah. So I was like, I genuinely think I might be about to die right now. And she'd even warned me. She'd even said, please just be careful. Please just don't push it too far. And I'd been winding her up a little bit, saying, oh, people hardly ever die in these events. There's only like a couple of years that die doing these. And then I was thinking, like, oh my God, she's going to give me such a hard time if I die from this.
No, if you don't.
And well, either way, from beyond the grave, she then hold it over me. Yeah. So I that was genuinely coming into my head. I was like, oh my God, I'm going to die right now, because I literally, all of those symptoms, I could barely move. My head it felt like it was about to explode. I was losing my vision. So I literally just limped down the mountain. I was just like crawling and just like in so much pain. And what's interesting is my knee, I haven't had any knee pain, any knee issues since. And I don't buy into any of this hooky kooky stuff, but I genuinely feel like that was my body's way of trying to stop me. It's the fact that was what stopped me. I felt the knee pain first. It was almost like my body saying, right, well, I'm going to shut this shit down. No more for you. No more running for you. So I limped my way down, and then just like literally was limping and just like in such a bad way. And then the guy's got a photo of me crossing the finish line, and I'm still there just stopping my watch just for even in that state, I'm there like, gotta do it if it's not on Strata, it didn't count. This is all for nothing. You're sad. And And anyway, I lie down and I'm there. I think it was saying to the guys, I literally could not speak. I was like, guys, I'm having a stroke. Please. And they just like got my legs up, just like forced loads and loads of fluid down me. And they said, right, you got about 1 minute before the next lap. And I was like, no, absolutely, no, we're done. Like, I genuinely think I might die here. And so they forced loads of fluid, and then over the next 5-10 minutes, I gradually became more, I could start seeing properly again. I could start to function a little bit more, and I felt a little bit more human. And then I eventually did go to the toilet, and then it was basically just piss blood. Yeah. And it was absolutely hideous. And I was I was in a really, really bad way. So I don't recommend anyone ever does something like this.
So what did you do? Go to hospital, presumably?
So the worst. So we really signed up to a bad one. There were no medics. There were no marshals. There was absolutely nothing. So if something had happened to me up there, I was at least probably an hour away from anyone finding me, and then even more time before I could get any medical help. So at that point, I thought the worst was done. I was going to be fine. But then I started developing some really bad symptoms over the next few days. That's when I went to hospital. And
so you blurred, and then you were like, yeah, no, I'll probably be all right after that.
Yeah. I thought I'd walk it off.
Don't try this at home.
No, it was, it was really, really bad. But the reason hospital didn't take it very seriously was because the thing that got to me the most was that I developed tinnitus. Mm-hmm. So the next day, I just woke up with this horrible ringing in my ears. And when I went to hospital, I told them what had happened. And I said, I've got this horrible ringing in my ears. And they focused on that. They completely focused on that. And they basically looked in my ears and said, oh, no, you're absolutely fine. The fact that you walked in here, you're going to be absolutely fine. Just go away. Didn't do anything. Didn't take any bloods or anything. Now, this is the thing I am deeply angry about. I then contacted my GP and got an appointment booked for the next month in September. And then it got cancelled twice. So I ended up not having a GP appointment for 6 weeks. And in the interim, I then went to a private GP and spent hundreds and hundreds of pounds. That was when they did blood tests and said, yeah, how long ago did this happen? I said, well, this was about 2 weeks ago. And they said, okay, yeah, it looks like you've had kidney failure. These based on your bloods. Yeah, you've had some exceptionally bad rhabdomyolysis. Why did hospital discharge you? And I said, they didn't admit me. They didn't do any bloods on me in the first place. And that was when it became apparent how badly injured I'd been. And part of the problem is when you are quite fit, when you're quite young, your body just masks all of this stuff.
Yeah.
Because I was able to just, if I'd been older and less fit, I don't think I would have been able to push myself to that state, but also I possibly could have just died or been in such an obviously bad way that people would have taken it seriously. But the fact that I was still upright and conscious meant that people didn't take it that seriously. So then talking to the private GP, that was when he said, yeah, what you've described is, it sounds like you're in the early stages of a stroke. And for another little bit of context, I've also had a close family member die from kidney failure as well. So and I actually did say this. I did say this to the GP as well, or when I was phoning up and they said, sorry, we just don't have the appointment. So he just kept getting pushed back and back. So then 6 weeks later, I eventually went for the appointment. They then said, yeah, is it the creatinine levels? Something in the blood that indicates kidney function. It was
Ferritin, I think. Maybe.
Yeah, one of those things. It basically still suggested that it was pretty bad. But it was getting better.
How did you feel in that kind of 6 week period?
Awful. Like, honestly, awful. So I kept on having the ringing in my ears.
Yeah.
I've had loads of tests since, MRIs and stuff. No one can figure out why. Anyway, that's still going on now. It's gradually getting better. But that happened. And then also it affected mentally, like really badly, because I pretty much overnight, I just developed this absolutely awful anxiety. And it was weird because it was the summer holidays. I don't have to see any kids for a while. I don't have any work to worry about, but I still just kept on having this awful, sense of foreboding and doom going on. And just honestly, very, very physiological anxiety, very, very, very physical. There is something wrong here. And obviously, not obviously, but you're thinking, well, okay, it's going to be okay. It's just something biochemical. It's just my body working its way out. But it was horrible. And then when it kept persisting, that was when I tried to push and get something done about it. But it basically just, I got very lucky. It just gradually righted itself.
Crazy.
Yeah, never ever do that again.
How did you recover from having early symptoms of a stroke? Like, did you take a path to sort of ease that off, or you just went about your normal day to day and then just train a bit less, I assume?
I basically stopped doing any real training. I started going for walks. I started going for swims. Did some weightlifting as well. I literally just did exercise as opposed to training.
Yeah.
And just made sure I ate really well. I mean, I did literally everything wrong, because coming back and I didn't even get to sleep properly afterwards because we were camping it was in the middle of nowhere in Wales. So there were loads of wild horses that were just whinnying and making noise all night, keeping us up. And, when you're camping, especially when you don't even have a pillow, I forgot a pillow. I forgot anything to sleep. I had a sleeping bag, but I just didn't get a good night's sleep. So I didn't give my body a chance to recover. On the way back, we stopped off at the services and got a KFC. So we did.
Classic.
That's the thing, when you're doing final trials and you're coming back from Nottingham, you always stop off at Leicester services you always get the KFC. You'd always see all the other rowers there, every rower that just there having KFC. That's what it was like. We're like, let's get a KFC. And I was there just in and out, lapsing in and out of consciousness in the car.
So you said we sort of got onto this because you sort of talked about not having that opportunity to stand down, not having that competition or that sort of finish line. Do you think that's the reason that you pushed on what would be far beyond the limits you should have?
Have you ever heard the stories of those Japanese soldiers on the islands in the Pacific?
Okay.
So,
no, I know what you're talking about, but yeah, go.
Yeah. So there were some Japanese soldiers. Now, I'm not a historian. I'm a French teacher, but my recollection of it is that there were, I think it was the islands around the Philippines. The Japanese there were a few of them were basically just planted on the islands and told to engage in guerrilla warfare with, because I think it was when the Japanese were occupying them, but they were still trying to fight the US soldiers, and they were basically just told, engage in guerrilla warfare, do whatever happens, do not get yourself killed, do not surrender, fight till the death. And there was one particularly famous one. I forget the guy's name, but he basically, long after the war ended, he just stayed up there. I think he was originally there with a couple of his friends. One of them got killed, another one surrendered, and he just said, "It doesn't matter, I will fight to the death." And then it got to the point where the decades had passed, and the war was over. The Japanese had literally flown and dropped leaflets everywhere saying the war is over, it's okay to come out. And he said, no, this is just American propaganda. I'm going to continue my mission.
We've become a total myth. There was all sorts of stories from local villages where food would go missing.
Yeah, he was literally
pigs would get killed and stuff, and crazy stuff would happen. And then they ended up flying his old major in or something.
Yeah, and it was it got to the point where it was literally the 1970s, and they found his old commanding officer to officially give him the order to stand down after he'd been killing people and it was literally 30 years later. He'd just been living in the trees, stealing food, eating it, and I think so. Going back to that, I almost felt I felt like him. I felt like that guy, just almost waiting for the order to stand down. And what was your question? Sorry.
Yeah, like what sort of pushed you on to doing that?
Because I felt like I still, at that point, I still felt like I needed to achieve something. I still felt like, especially when the day it happened was the day of, I think it was the men's 8 final at the Olympics. So I'd seen GB win a gold, and obviously at some point in my life, I wanted that to have been my goal. That was my goal. I wanted to achieve that. And obviously a decade passed, but I still see myself as that person. I still wanted, it was something I was training for, and I never got that cathartic moment that I talked about. So I almost felt like I was still fighting that battle. And yeah, so seeing on one of the loops, that was when the guys got gold, and I thought, okay, that's awesome. I'm going to try and do my own thing now. I'm going to try and prove myself in another way. And yeah, funny enough, I was talking to my girlfriend about it, and she didn't, to her credit, she didn't say I told you so. But when we were talking about it, I said, I was trying to find some positive spin to put on it, and I said, are you not just a little bit? Is there not part of you which is a little bit impressed that I was able to push myself there? That I have, does it not, you know, a bit impressed that I have some determination and work ethic and willpower? And she said, well, that's lovely, but it's great for you, but why don't you put all of those good qualities into something useful that doesn't nearly kill you? And I thought, yeah, that's actually fair enough. That's
Crickets first.
probably, yeah, anything else. So yeah.
But it took something like that. It took sort of pushing it over the edge for you to be able to look back. You sort of said, Nat, earlier on, looking back at the things we were talking about, you know, the vests and the selection, that you feel a lot happier with it now. Do you still feel like you needed that moment, that push to sort of get over it and be like, oh, this is not what I need anymore, or this is not sort of the aim anymore?
I think so. I feel a little bit less. It's got to the point where I feel like. So I now feel happy to not hear ringing. Whenever I hear silence, I feel happy. And that's a really weird place to be. It's something that I feel like a lot of people would take for granted. So the whole recovery process from that has been taking a little while. So yeah, I genuinely feel now, I don't need to push myself. You're absolutely right. I'm still, like I said, I'm doing a marathon next month. I'm still going to push hard there, but that's within, there's a finish line. There's a finish line. And also I think the difference there is I genuinely do enjoy running. When I did that event, the Backyard Ultra in August, I didn't enjoy a second of it. I absolutely hated it. I felt like I was on a mission. Whereas now, everything else, I just go for a run. I genuinely enjoy it. It always makes me feel better. And going out and doing Edinburgh Marathon was one of the most fun sporting events I have ever done. Genuinely, doing that was absolutely amazing. So I'm still going to push myself, but I want to do it I want to do it in things that I actually enjoy, and I want to make sure I'm actually happy and and enjoying it, not just trying to prove myself.
Just within confines of within reason, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're not going to do that. I mean, so that I've got a question, obviously, like leading out from all of this, because it's still quite fresh in memory, and it didn't happen even a year ago, so it's still quite a fresh thing that's happened to you. Are you not worried that at some point, like, the monster in your head's going to think, that was it, I'm not as good as I once was, what's my next thing, to try and like almost break myself? Or was that something that's taught you a lesson and you definitely don't want to open that door again?
Well, this is the thing. Part of the reason I end up in such a bad way is because when you're rowing, you do a 2K. No matter how hard you push yourself, you can't do any real lasting damage. You'll be sick. You'll be out of breath. You'll feel bad. You'll feel a bit dizzy. Your legs will burn, but you're not going to do any lasting damage. Whereas when you do something like this that lasts hours or even days, you can do some very, very real damage to yourself. So even if that monster does rear its head again, I'll do it with something where I'll definitely read about it a little bit more. I'll definitely do it with something that's a lot safer. like no, a chess tournament, or you can push yourself really hard and do it in something that's safe. I guess that's what I've learned from that.
I think I was sort of really interested in it because of anyone who had a dream of going to the Olympics, not very many people make it. Of most people that go to the Olympics, they don't win a gold medal. So like and whether it's the Olympics or winning Henley or whatever your goal is, like the reality is, we all see the movies and Rocky on top of the steps and the person getting the gold medal. Most people don't get it. So in terms of like people listen to this, whatever, like there's always and even if, having spoken to other Olympians, you do win something. I won Henley, but I didn't do this, or I did that, but I didn't get there, or I went to the Olympics, but I didn't get gold or silver, whatever it is. We all go through that process of feeling like we haven't quite achieved what we want to. And like, it's sort of interesting, obviously, from your perspective, like going back, or say maybe, like you sort of said, if you now could speak to you 10 years ago, what advice would you give that person who was struggling to let go of that goal or that aim, or saw their life, saw that they couldn't sort of complete or keep going without having done this certain thing?
I'd probably tell myself it's going to be okay.
It's a good start.
Because 10 years ago, I didn't really know what I was going to do career-wise. I found teaching, really, really enjoyed it. My mum was a teacher and my sister is a teacher. So for a long time, they'd been saying, Ertan, why don't you go into teaching? And that pushed me away from it because I didn't want to do the same job as my mum. And then I found it and I thought, and actually I wish I'd got into this a little bit sooner. So that has helped a lot. Like I said, having a really steady career. And then on the side, I love being fit and active. Like, it's like when if you're used to training twice a day, it feels weird to just let that go. I'm always going to want to do that. And I'm always going to want to train for something. I'm always going to want to compete. But I think I've found the edge. I found the limit. I found it. I definitely took it way too far. And
but now you know.
Yeah, now I know. I know where the limit is. And my parents are now saying, "Oh, why do you still want to do a marathon after what happened?" I said, "Okay, well, you saw my time, right? You saw my official time. Of course I'm gonna give it another crack."
I mean, that's sort of the separation between compared to people. And there are certain people that would say, "Oh, why bother doing it again?" But like exactly. I see 3:00.4. You're like, come on. But what else are you gonna do?
I didn't know I wanted to compete in the Boston Marathon until I got an email saying that I was 4 seconds too slow to qualify for it.
You got to get a sub-3 to qualify
for the Boston Marathon. Yeah.
Wow.
I didn't realize that until I got an email, and I was like, well, now I want to do it. Now I want to do the Boston Marathon.
The whole America or in
America.
The more glamorous Boston.
Yeah, the Boston where people's rowing careers dreams don't go to die. You remember what it's like? You're sitting in that horrible arena, just watching wave after wave of people doing their 2Ks, and then the next day you stay in some horrible accommodation.
It's bleak. Bleak. No, the other Boston's quite nice. Yeah, it's definitely that sort of mindset of as soon as someone tells you can't do something, and it sort of like lights the fire under you. I had that. There's quite a while when a few of my friends would even basically realize that like if you wanted to get anything done, just tell Tom that it wasn't possible. So, like, I was around my friend's house. He was trying to put in a new bathroom or whatever, and he just started the day with like, "So we probably won't get this finished today." And essentially just light the torch paper. Yeah, it's 9 p.m. and I'm still like, "Come on, we can do it."
What do you think I've been doing for the last
Yeah.
every day?
In a weird way, even sometimes
I can't get the Sinkovich brothers on.
Even myself, even sometimes when I know, I can even say it to myself, but it still have like a motivating to do that. Oh, there's no way we're going to, like, I can almost even motivate myself, even though I know I've done it or I know he's doing it to me. It still has like a positive impact. Like, I know he's winding me up, but I still want to prove him wrong.
The best thing is when you get both him and his brother in a room together, and then you can work them against each other, only until they realize what's happening.
Does your brother work here now? Is he involved with?
He did a little bit, but no, he's doing his own thing now. Yeah, he got bored of fixing rowing machines for me. Yeah. No. But he lives in Oxford, which is cool. So I get to see him a bit more.
Shout out Arthur.
Yeah. He's definitely not listening to this. Yeah, he got super sick of being told that he could be good at rowing like his brother. So he sort of went and did other stuff.
Well, if you hadn't knew that you could be as good as rowing as his brother, maybe you could have done something.
Yeah, I wasn't that good. Cool. So, and then I guess, okay, so it kind of makes sense, but having been a teacher, getting into coaching, what was it about wanting to get back? Was it about staying in rowing or still loving the sport, being involved? What made you decide to do the coaching thing? I always find that fascinating because there's certain athletes will just always finish it. You know, they'll row, but never ever do anything else. And then some people just take it on further and further.
Honestly, how I got involved with the coaching was because at that point this was last year at some point. I'd just moved to Marlow. I'd just started a ball ace, which is where I'm teaching. And I was just looking for a little bit of a community. I was just looking for a bit more to do outside of Marlow and to just meet some people. And I had a friend who was at the time rowing there, and he just said, "Hey, they're looking for someone to coach the young vets, so the young veterans. So it's kind of in that 40 to 70, not the really old people, but in that sort of 40 to 70 bracket." Anyway, I went down there, and they just said, "This is what's what." I was originally supposed to just be there for doing a couple of sessions a week, but it's now turned into it never happens, does it? It never goes that way. No. So then, within a few months, I find myself navigating these selection battles and seat racing, and having to, and you're then starting to get texts from people all hours of the day, people saying, I just want to know, I don't enjoy rowing with this person. I thought they were really rude, or this person keeps on splashing me. Can you sit them in a different seat? And it's like at all hours of the day, stuff like that.
I always think and I just think if we never had WhatsApp access to our coach, do you know what I mean? It's so different now. I would never dream of texting my coach in 2008 and being like, "Oh, by the way, I just wanted to ask this question." But now it's a constant.
They're also all older than me, and most of them have been rowing for longer than I've been alive. So I'm like, why do you need to ask me this question? You know the answer to this question, man. But yeah, it's weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, it feels weird.
But I enjoy it.
Yeah, it's a really, really lovely group of people. Shout out to the Marlow Young Vets. No, they are a really, really lovely group of people. And what is also funny is how even these people who are in their 70s, how seriously they take it. So loads of these people have been rowing for literally decades. They were competing in Henley in the 90s, and they still care so much. They still get angry. We were doing seat racing. You'll be able to relate. You guys will be able to relate to this. We were doing some seat racing, and we rate capped it. And you know what happens? Someone starts screaming at the other person, swearing at them, saying, "You're overrating." And then the other person screams back, calls them some profanities, and it just completely erupts. And then within 30 seconds of being off the water, they're hugging each other, saying, "Hey, no hard feelings about it." They just completely forget about it. But even though these are people who've may have won Henley years ago, or some of them have actually done the Blue Boat or ISIS or Goldie decades ago, even though they've done some really, really big stuff. Even doing something like masters rowing, they still care about so much.
It's just like a sport you can't give in. I remember back at Leander, we used to row a guy called Dave Reed. Shout out, great. But we used to talk about him having racing Tourette's, because if you ever shout him on during a race, he was the nicest guy. Really well spoken, "So hi guys, I didn't do that." But if you ever was "Yeah, go on, Dave," it's just it just there's something in his brain that just like the anger of it. But
Can't turn it up. Like even at the age of 70, you're still the same person, just a little bit more older, more mature. I imagine packed for a bit more wisdom. But that competitive edge, it probably will never go away. And then they care so much because there's always that 2% that could be better. Like, yeah, I'm maybe not able to go sub 8 minutes anymore. I can still get that blade in a bit earlier. I don't know. That's what I think is going to happen.
I definitely know if I get that itch from like, okay, like I'm never going to PB on a 2K again, but like how long could I hang on to sub 7?
That's what's quite nice about, that's what's really nice actually about getting into running, because I'm still so new at it. I've got newbie gains all the time.
I saw John Collins talking about, did you see the interview? John Collins has just started doing some Taekwondo stuff. And he was saying, yeah, I spent so long spending like an entire year trying to get like 0.5% better at something. And it's like so frustrating. And you go to a new sport and it's like, I'm getting better every day.
Right. That's the thing. So like, I honestly, when I first started running, I probably wouldn't have been able to do sub 4. But then like so quickly, I obviously got to a point where I was relatively quick. And yeah, so it's so nice to just go out and see noticeable improvement. I'll probably, once that starts to plateau, I'll probably find something else.
How are you finding chess at the moment?
Chess, not very good.
Not very good. All right.
Not very good. I'm kind of at that. No, I play like probably a few dozen games a day. Okay. Just on my the bullet chess.
Oh, you play bullet? I play
Yeah.
bullets.
So it's just like nice and is it bullet if you're doing 5 or 10 minute games?
Oh, that's blitz.
Yeah, blitz. Sorry, that's what, yeah. I like doing that blitz. What ELO rating are you?
Not to be disclosed.
Okay.
I've only started playing last year.
Okay, I'll add you on the chess.com.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I like doing stuff like that. It's actually quite nice to see yourself getting better and start to recognize those patterns.
And easy games, yeah.
Yeah, newbie games. And you're not going to injure yourself. You're not going to piss blood.
And then once you're good enough, so no one's going to scholar at you in 3 moves, and you're happy, you know. We've all been there.
Oh, it's so frustrating when someone does that to you.
Especially when you don't see it coming because it's a good player and you're like, you fucker.
Right. I think we should do some questions.
Questions?
Quick fire round.
Quick fire rounds. Okay. Ertan, out of all the rowing venues that you've trained at, been at, or visited, so raced at,
Shut down.
which one do you think is going to host the next one? No, which one is your favorite and why?
Some people pick a few as well, if you're really...
You know what? I loved the one in Belarus. Best memories, and also it was... So do you remember when we got there and we just said, like, okay, well, this is the reason why the rest of what was it, Brest? Brest. The reason why the rest of Brest is dilapidated is because all of the money has been pumped into this.
The course.
Into the course.
Some of those like sort of Eastern Bloc courses are like amazing.
I never went to Poznan, but apparently Poznan was an awesome course.
It is. Yeah, so I used to row that was kind of like my thorny life for training in like local regattas.
And it looks like you got like water parks and theme parks and stuff all the way down. It just looks fun.
It's in the middle of the city. There's a zoo behind the big stand. There's obviously the big screen. People are running and rollerblading around. There's a big shopping mall at the start of the course. Yeah, it's lovely.
Not just concrete and nothing else.
Yeah, I know. And there's also a little ski slope.
Actually, can I change my answer? Lake Bled, Slovenia. Yeah.
Blood comes up a lot.
Yeah, definitely. That's a good one.
Yeah.
When were you there?
Just for UL training camp in 2013.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, that was a great one.
I was going to say summer of 2012 when I did that European 8 project. Also, everyone else was away. I think like Shep went to under 23s as non coaches. So we did 4 or 5 weeks training up in UL with Brian, who I also was like the only time I ever coached him. It was also awesome. Who was also at that point telling us about how he'd had enough of rowing. He was probably going to quit. I know that he's still coaching now.
I don't really know what he's doing.
He's got dragged back into sort of under 23 selection.
I think he's doing something like what Kieran's doing. I think I think he comes back for the summer because I know he's
finished coach.
Yeah, I think he as an independent contractor.
We should get him on that. I'd love to. He's got some real ideas about rowing.
Yeah, so he's, I know he retired from rowing, retired from coaching, and then he's
retired.
Yeah, no one ever retires. Everyone's just like a boomerang. Just keep
There's
coming.
no way out. You don't get out of this alive.
Why do you think we're doing this?
Yeah. What did you, Pete? What did you do in rowing? Like, what was your story?
Well, I guess that will be on another episode.
Oh,
But
no.
I learned
Go on.
I learned how to row in Poland. I found out that my neighbour was going to the London Olympics, and then
Annoyingly beat me at under 23s one year.
in 2009.
Yeah.
Which boat was that at the end?
He was in the end. He was in the 8 in London, and then that's when I started in 2012. And then quickly caught the bug, started doing it every day, and then family was moving to the UK. I got a scholarship to like one of the best rowing schools in Poland. And then I was like, I'm not moving. And they were like, yes, you are. I was like, no, unless I'm going to get into Leander. Got into Leander, did a couple of years there. Did a little stint after that at Newcastle Uni. And then completely moved away from rowing for years and years and years until I started coaching back again with Tom, just after lockdown.
I needed a coaching assistant that was just going to eat shit for me all day.
Basically. And then we just kept going with row gear. Had an idea for the poddy, and then here we are. So, what is it? It will be 5 years in July that we've had the idea.
I don't know if we've spoken about this on the podcast as well, but I was like adamantly against doing it. I was like very much in your sense of like, oh, I'm just like a failed rower that never made it, and no one's going to be interested in any of my opinions, or no one's going to want to take me seriously. And it took Pete like 2 years.
Yeah.
Like basically like 2 years of being like, Tom, like, because we go to jobs a lot, spend a lot of time in the van. We basically used to run this podcast just talking to each other anyway. Just finally convinced me that I think actually people might be interested in what you have to say. And anyway, like, we just interview them. So like, we'll just like find out what they want to say. So it was a long time coming, but obviously super happy we did it. And the feedback's been really good. So
Yeah.
but basically, Pete does if anyone doesn't know, Pete does absolutely everything. So he sets everything up. Everything runs off his computer. He sets up all the cameras. He does all the mics. He does all the editing. He books most of the guests. He does all the camera. Every time the camera moves, every time that happens, if you're watching it on YouTube, or the camera, like Pete's doing that live, and like all I have to do is just sit here and ask questions. So like it's really,
So you're the Jamie.
it's really Pete's thing, yeah.
Well, also because I'm bald, I'm also the Rogans. Tom's got the interesting stuff. He's the Neil deGrasse Tyson of there.
I think he just happened to be in the rowing world long enough to know enough people to
Yeah, but then
get involved.
But long story short, that's long story short, actually.
We got other.
That's what I've done in rowing.
Oh, awesome.
I mean, he's put himself some. Yeah, he was at Leander. Obviously couldn't row for GB, but medals at England, national champion.
Yeah,
Nat Schools.
Nat School's gold. Yeah,
Nat Schools gold.
Did you?
Yeah, yeah.
that was okay.
See, like everywhere. It was alright. It was alright. We all do it. We all
Everyone
do it.
just always talks themselves down.
Yeah.
What was the next question?
Well, the next question, I'm glad you've asked, is if you were to repeat one race and one event again when you're 60 or 70, what would it be and why?
As in, if I could go back in time to
To relive it or to get this renowned?
Yeah, to relive it or to try and get something changed. It's up to you.
Peterborough Regatta, is it?
No, because he won that.
You know what? It's got to be our Cogs 4 final in 2010. I would just think we were only what 2 seconds off winning.
I didn't realize it was that.
I think so. I think from my memory, it was like gold was 6:14, silver was 6:15, and we were 6:16. It was something like it was in the mid-teens, and it was honestly, I think it was only a couple of seconds, and I genuinely think like there was some universes out there in which we could have got a gold or silver.
Yeah, it was close.
I could be wrong. I mean, the older I get, the more I look back at that and think it was a missed opportunity, not necessarily, but 15 years later, I still think about it. It still feels a lot closer in my mind. I feel like I would love to have had another crack at that.
You think if you told Tom to set up a little bit more, you'd have done those 2 seconds faster?
I mean, I look back at that race and think there's no way on earth I could have worked any harder. So
I don't know. It's not about working harder. I meant more in the sense of, because like we said, we didn't have that much time together as a crew. It's not about any individual working harder.
yeah, no, I know.
Just like having another crack at it.
If we could have had like 4 weeks instead of 2,
Yeah. That's what I mean. That's what I mean. And like having another race under our belt would have actually done us good, because we only did the first time we did a full 2K was at the championships.
Yeah.
Really? Yeah. The longest we ever went was 1,500 in training at Caversham.
I think we did it, I think with the full crew, because of selection and everything, and then Andy getting ill. I think maybe we did do some stuff with subs or whatever. I can't quite remember. I remember specifically, like, when we look back and it's like, oh, the amount of time we spent in the actual crew was quite more.
Oh, right. Yeah, yeah. Because I was going to say, surely you had speed orders and that kind of thing.
Yeah, but we were, Andy was like, got really, like, we didn't know what was going to go.
Oh, do that. They do a speed order, don't they? They do a 2K, but we never did it.
Maybe not, because he was just coming back.
I've completely forgotten about Andy being ill.
It's weird what you do and don't remember. Yeah, I was fascinated, like, having people on who I've rode with at any point on any campaign. It's always fascinating to remember the things that they remember, because you get so hung up on the things that stuck in your head, and then you realize that everyone else in the crew, like, oh, that time when I that final, like when I did the 8 first year in the final speed order, I caught a crap with like 10 strokes to go. And obviously just that was like the thing that stuck in my mind. But like speaking to people about it, they can't even remember that it happened. So weird.
This is being polite. I think everyone,
I think they've all told you about it, right?
Oh yeah. It's been, every time I meet anyone, any of those guys, they're always like, yeah, that crap from 16 years ago. They've actually got a picture of your face on a dartboard.
Yeah.
And just like a picture of a crab.
Yeah, that's basically how my head works, but
SpongeBob.
It might not be true.
I love that.
Right, I got them.
I don't think anyone cares. At the time, someone catches a crab and it's like, I hate you. You're ruining my life. And then like, a little bit of time, no one cares.
Of course.
It's Ryan.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah, it's not life.
Right.
It's not life. My question is next. I kind of said a little bit, but if you could travel back in time to the age you were when you first fell in love with rowing, what advice would you give that kid?
Chill out. It's just rowing.
Good advice.
Yeah, I look back, I definitely took things way too seriously. But then again, that's also another question though. Is it, if I had chilled out and not taken it so seriously, would I have ever got to the point where it was feasible to dream about having a GB vessel of any kind?
I think the exact same thing, yeah. Shoot for the moon, right? Or shoot for the stars and you might hit the moon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't know, I'd probably say try and enjoy it a bit more. You can still take things seriously while being chilled out. So like in my running, like now, I'm obviously never going to be an Olympic runner of any sort. Way too heavy, way too slow. But
you're not going for the sub 2 hour Elliot Kipchoge time, no?
I did.
Get some of them shoes though. They seem pretty awesome.
The Alphafly 3s.
Yeah.
So I did. I've got a pair of the the Adidas AdiPro 03s, which are something similar. They're the ones with a bit of padding, a bit of cushioning, a bit of carbon, a bit of the carbon rods. Just for they definitely do make a big difference. Like I'd probably estimate they probably took like 3 or 4 minutes off.
Wow.
Like. It's not going to suddenly take you from like 4 hour to a 3 hour, but it'll take definitely a few seconds off.
So we're talking about shoes with springs.
Yeah, it's not specifically springs. It's carbon rods or carbon plates. So the ones that Elliot Kipchoge uses in like Alphafly 3s, they basically got some carbon plates and then some. What are they like?
Essentially, the point being like the energy that you put into landing kind of gets stored into the trainer, and then as you take the next step.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Yeah. So it's not. Yeah. And they've got some like little. These they almost look like they're bags of air to just add a little bit of cushioning. I can't remember what they're called, but I've never used those ones. They're a little bit pricey. They're like $280. You were spending,
but you were saying, you can take it serious and still enjoy it.
Yeah. So I'm taking it seriously, but it's if I have to have a day off, I'll happily have a day off now. I'll happily just
failure.
Yes,
and there he goes, just undermining the entire point of tonight.
I know we train a lot in the gym. Like I had to be like, Pete, stop it. Like that, I don't need anyone to be like, is that all you're lifting today? Because like that voice in my head will put way too much on the bar.
Oh my God, I'm so weak at the moment though. This is the one bad thing about running.
Well, yeah, that's the opposite.
Yeah. You can't lift. Like all of these people you see on YouTube who are talking about being a hybrid athlete, they're on roids.
I heard a great thing that there was like shout out to the person that came up with hybrid athlete instead of shit runner and can't really lift that well. Let's move on. We're getting stuck. What's the next one?
Who are some of your, final question, who are some of your rowing idols or the people you've looked up to either during or post your rowing career?
I'll tell you, they used to be my idols up until a couple of weeks ago, right up until Vet said. I remember when I was first learning to row, I used to look up, I remember seeing James Cracknell winning the Olympics. Like he'd won the Olympics in 2000 with Redgrave and Pinson, and then he does it again in 2004. And I remember that was the first Olympics I watched on TV, and I thought, oh, you legend. I remember 2008, 4 years later, seeing Drew Ginn and Duncan Free winning the pairs at the Olympics. And I used to look at the videos of them and, Drew Ginn used to post videos on his YouTube channel. I used to look at those videos and think, oh, that's how I want to row. They were my idols. And then the guys I was coaching, the men from Marlow, they were doing Masters D. They then came up against those guys in their Super 8 rowing as like Mercantile, Molesey, Upper Thames, and I think they had some German Olympic champions in there as well. Yeah. So, I mean, I say this playfully, like I obviously still really look up to them. It was just really, really irritating to have people you looked up to when you were a child then beating quite comfortably, very, very comfortably, the people that you're coaching.
Well, then they're still as good as they should be, no? They should be winning.
I couldn't believe how fast they still are.
Yeah.
It was phenomenal.
Yeah, amazing.
And they probably hadn't even had, I can't imagine they had much time in the 8 together.
What was the distance?
There was the Vet's head, so it was basically the championship course, Chiswick to Putney.
Okay, so no hiding in that.
Yeah, they won. Like they clearly are very, very fit and rowing very well. They won Vet D by, Alex, 55 seconds or something.
Yeah, if you ever walk past the Henley Riverside and then pass Upper Thames and you hear like a plane / a helicopter noise, it's just Alex Partridge like absolutely ragging the crap out of the RP3.
Honestly, we were there fixing the eggs at Upper Thames, and Alex was doing a session on RP3, and I was like, that thing is about to take off. He was hitting it so hard, and him and James did a pair's head as well. They've both been sending it. It's pretty impressive.
They nearly won the whole thing.
Yeah.
Open
Really?
category. Yeah. I think they're like a few seconds off. They came out maybe third or something in the open. Ridiculous.
Yes, the big dogs.
Shout out to Alex.
It's just so funny. You see, seeing all those people you used to look up to when you were really young, and then you see the draw. So at that point, we were hoping that my Marlow guys were going to win a pennant, and then we saw the draw, and it was okay, great. I have to hate my heroes now. Actually, as it turns out, they only ends up coming fourth anyway, so it made no difference.
Rubbish.
So I can't even blame them.
Awesome.
Cool. It's been so fun chatting to you.
Thank you for having me, guys.
Yeah, absolutely. At some point, we're definitely going to have you on again. I think the story of you absolutely breaking limits, not even finding them, absolutely breaking them, and then finding yourself in a situation that I can quite clearly say you've never thought you'd be in before, and then come out of that.
And that's the thing, just to add to that, is that it didn't happen instantly, because otherwise then I would have stopped. Because if I just, it was so insidious, it just kept happening, it gradually creep up on me. So like any advice to anyone listening, like honestly, just like don't try and prove something, and actually like listen to your body, because it was really, really slow. It's not like how in an erg, like say you're doing a 2K, you're never going to really hurt yourself, but it happens so quickly. I was almost comfortable being in that level of comfort for a huge amount of time, because I didn't need to just push. It didn't feel like I was pushing. It felt like I was just pushing a little bit, but just for a really long period of time.
Then they say that you can put like a lobster in a thing of cold water.
Throw it in the boiling water, it instantly is going to jump out. But if you put it in the lukewarm water and you slowly, gradually turn the dial out, it will boil to death. So That's the analogy.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah. No, I think it's been great to chat. I'm really glad we got it done. I think, from my own perspective, like I think a lot of us have been there, struggled with maybe what we haven't or haven't achieved. I think you've got an interesting perspective on that, and obviously sort of a sort of story of what not to do maybe afterwards, but something that we can all kind of learn from. And we've all been there, and we've spoken to plenty of other athletes who've talked about getting into that mindset of trying to prove something to someone else, or try and do it for someone else, or do it for the wrong reasons. And like, answering those questions, you've alluded to the fact that like now looking back on it, you can see, the advice you would give yourself is enjoy it a bit more and do it for you and not for the right or wrong reasons. But like, these are all things that we can learn from. It's why we started this podcast, because I think we've definitely all been there, and we've definitely kind of been in that headspace. And I think it's a great story to tell. I agree with your response that you tried to get your girlfriend to say that's pretty impressive. I think that's incredibly impressive, that even if it happens gradually, to be able to push your body to that place, that's not something that everyone has the ability to do.
And the sad thing is, I never did that. Not once did I do a 2K or a race where anyone would have said, "Oh, Ertan pushed himself really, really hard that time." And so it's just funny how like that came later in life. I almost feel like I would have been a much better rower if I could now go back and do it again. I think I'd be much better.
Of course, and that's exactly what we're trying to do now, is share the information from those that have been there and done that, and hopefully help some people not make the same mistakes that we all did and learn from them. So no, it's been awesome to hear your story. I've really enjoyed it, guys. I think you should be super proud of your career. There aren't many people at all who manage to go under 23s 4 times in a row. Just to have that consistency, to not get ill or injured, to be on the world stage, to have those vests. I know, like you said, like how you feel like me, like maybe didn't quite get that top aim. But like, I hope you can look back and be happy with that, because I think it's an impressive.
I appreciate that, guys. Thank you.
And as my last comment, I will just hope that next month at the Edinburgh Marathon, you get this 5 seconds shaved off.
It's going to be a lot more than that.
Fingers crossed.
Hopefully. But as for today, this concludes everything for this episode. So on that note, easy there.
Cue the music.